Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by Robert Meyer Burnett.
How you doing?
Jonathan Foyko.
I'm doing pretty good.
Chris Carr.
Jonathan and I match. I'm so excited.
So much. But most importantly, of course, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a few topics we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show, well, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, question, or topic you'd like us to address, as long as we deem it appropriate to be addressed on our show, go ahead and fire it on into our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And the good news about that tip link is that it's actually good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you're listening to this show on a podcast feed, say on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or maybe if you're watching this show a little bit later in the day when we're not actually live, you can still send in a topic or a question. And if you do so when we're not live, we'll just get around to answering it on our next episode. All right, guys, with that down, let's get this week started, shall we? With this. Daredevil, Born Again. I think we can, are we at the point now that we can say days away?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's still over a week, but I'll say
days.
we're now days away from Daredevil, Born Again. And I'm super excited about it. And one of my big complaints about streaming, the streaming era and shows on streamers, is that we often have to wait 2, sometimes 3 years. It's normal now, 2 to 3 years in between seasons. But hold on to your gitch, because the big executive guy in charge of television over at Marvel is saying not so with Daredevil, because season 2, it's coming next year. And then season 3 will be the year after that. And it's going to be annual. This comes to us from the folks over at Screen Rant, who asked him, considering Daredevil Born Again season 2 production kicks off in just a couple of weeks here in New York, is the ambition for a project like Daredevil Born Again to eventually become an annual release? You know, like every other TV show in history before the streaming era. And Brad Winderbaum, the head of Marvel Television, said, that is the plan. Season 2 will come out next year, and then hopefully season 3 and season infinity after that. I think this world is extremely rich, and there are many stories to be told on the streets of New York. All right. There's 2 very interesting things that come out of this for me. Number one is, of course, an actual executive making the commitment that this thing's going to come out every year. And that is what every TV show on streamers should be. They should have a season per year. I understand the realities of streaming being that they're never really sure if they're going to do a season 2, so they don't lock people in. So once they decide to do another season, it sometimes takes a while for them to get to schedules, whatever. But to get a series like Daredevil and to say we're going to start doing this annually, and they do start shooting season 2 in just a couple of weeks, they'll be ready plenty of time for 2026. And then to say that's the plan, every year put out a show like this, I think it's marvelous. But here's the second thing that I don't see anybody else talking about. I wonder if this announcement is kind of an implied message to us fans. Don't expect to see Daredevil in many movies. Like, we are literally going to have Charlie Cox and team and crew making a new season every year.
Locked up.
And so that's where you're going to see Matt Murdock. I mean, will there still be time if they wanted to drop in a movie? Probably. But I wonder if this sort of an announcement kind of indicates to us, don't expect to see a Spider-Man Daredevil team up movie. Don't expect to see this. I mean, this is going to be an ongoing series. So I don't know. I wonder about that, Rob. And let me pose those 2 issues to you. What do you think about the idea of Winterbaum now saying this is going to be an annual thing? We're going to put out a new season every year. And it sounds like they're at least kind of thinking about more than just season 2, like season infinity, he says. And then do you think this might be a little bit of a canary in the cave, saying that maybe don't expect to see Charlie Cox or Daredevil in many of the movies? I don't know. How do you see both of those?
Well, I mean, look, first of all, I see that the Daredevil franchise, as it is, because you've got a movie, you know, the Ben Affleck movie, you've got Daredevil's appeared in the MCU. He was on Netflix. I think making Daredevil a, what do they call it, Earth level, street level character?
Yeah. Or as he likes to call it, a human level
A
character.
human level character. It makes sense because look, while the Avengers are out protecting the multiverse, dealing with Doctor Doom or the Secret Wars or whatever the hell's going on, it makes sense that we still have to have law enforcement. You know, you still have to have something going on in New York. I mean, New York City is infinitely interesting. And so having Daredevil do Daredevil things makes a lot of sense to me, especially when Wilson Fisk is apparently the mayor and there's a lot of shenanigans happening. So keep that character. I mean, that's in the comics. You can still have really interesting threats. I mean, whether there's a Typhoid Mary happening, whether Wilson Fisk is bringing down your brownstone, whatever, there's still enough going on. I mean, look at how many cop shows exist in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, Daredevil can be the cop show of the Marvel Universe. It's a superhero cop who's a lawyer. You know, so you've got lawyer shows and cop shows and superheroes in one show. So it makes sense to me.
Just like She-Hulk.
Well, but this was good.
That's
Not just like, but
But
they
I'll
just
Hopefully,
but-
it's
You
just
know-
as funny as She-Hulk.
But I'll tell you
because
something,
I
John.
don't want it to
but
be
this,
funny at all.
But this shows that the thing about Daredevil is not just being a human level character. You also, every time She-Hulk appeared as She-Hulk, you're talking visual effects. You're talking a lot more money.
Yeah.
Daredevil is the kind of show that can be manageable in terms of cost.
Yeah.
In terms of making it, you know, you're not, it isn't Westeros. You're not, you can make this at Silver Cup Studios, wherever you're going to shoot it. You can do it in Atlanta, wherever, but you can be I just think from a production standpoint, it's manageable. And during the time that you're in post on one season, you can shoot the next season. A lot of these shows take so long because of the amount of visual effects, because of the amount, how it's slower to shoot shows that have that many things going on. But this can be more like a traditional TV show. So I think it's great. I don't think that necessarily means that we won't see Daredevil, like when Daredevil appeared in Spider-Man.
Yeah, but I mean, like, kind of beyond a quick wink, eye wink cameo.
I
sort
don't
of
know.
thing.
I mean, if they need Daredevil to do something like lock down, batten down the hatches in New York, maybe. But I think that's what Marvel needs. Marvel needs characters in TV shows that aren't going to cross over into their films, because let the TV series be special too.
Yeah.
You know, I understand they can all exist in the same universe, but it's just like Marvel Comics. You can have whole runs of comics that only deal with one character, that don't have the Avengers or Captain America. The Daredevil comics, like they were always best when they dealt with Daredevil. So I think this is a really good idea. And they're following up on the Netflix precedent. You can still bring in people to guest star, but I like that Daredevil's going to kind of be its own thing. I think it's good.
You know, by the way, some people are talking in the live chat. I just want to say for the record, if Daredevil does not twerk in the first episode, I'm bailing. I'm giving up on this show. It'll be a huge missed opportunity. Chris, again, it seems like two things. Number one, the idea of it actually being an annual show, which is so against the grain in today's streaming world.
yes.
But do you think this also might be a little bit of an indicator that we shouldn't expect to see a Daredevil feature film or a Daredevil and Deadpool or Daredevil and Spider-Man? I mean, anything beyond quick little cameos? I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I think Rob nailed it. This is the essence of this character, is being in Hell's Kitchen, being on street level, being people level, working with them and everything. And I know for some of my friends too, who aren't as heavy into the comic book world, they've often said, there's only so many times I can watch these galactic events. There are only so many times I can watch the world end, or, you know, an entire metropolitan area be destroyed without feeling a little fatigued or like it's played out, and I'm not watching character.
Desensitized.
Exactly,
maybe.
yeah. Which is kind of what happened with the Celestial, right? Of, well, yeah, this is just a Tuesday in the MCU.
Yeah.
There's a giant being in the universe, out in the sky. Fine, we're used to it. So the idea of having characters who are on that very human level, who are interacting with people in a very procedural kind of way, I think really adds a lovely layer to the MCU of, we need all kinds of heroes. Because we've talked about this before too, of who can be on the lunchbox. They need to be super powered individuals. They need to be able to handle these galactic threats and handle these big bads that mean they have to have supercharged abilities. And yes, Daredevil has abilities, but we're not going to see him trying to punch Thanos in the face kind of situations. You know what I mean? I think it's helpful to have somebody who is there to take care of the everyday person who is being disenfranchised by political corruption in a town, who is being mugged on the street, who is dealing with, you know, local gangs and things like that. I feel like a lot of times we miss the trees in the forest kind of situation of, we still need to make sure that all people are taken care of. And by having somebody who is localized and a hero who is working in a specific borough of New York, you bring back the humanity to these superhero stories. So I feel like it'll be a good fit. And I do think we'll just probably see Matt pop in more as a lawyer or maybe as somebody who they consult with, as opposed to joining in on the big bad threats in the movies.
And you know who else can't deal with big bad threats like Thanos and Galactus?
Captain America?
Ninjas. Ninjas.
And Daredevil has so
And
many.
Daredevil
ninjas.
has so many. We got the Hand. Come on. I mean, how can they try and vilify Japan in Captain America: Brave New World, where all ninjas come from Japan? Why do you do that?
I didn't feel vilified. I felt like they were understandably upset.
Yeah,
I
they were
finally
the
saw
ones
this this
being
weekend.
wronged.
Yeah.
That's why they're going to flood the U.S. with
ninjas. Although, by
All
the
the
way, I had a
ninjas.
new idea. You know how in Sonic 3, my favorite scene in Sonic 3 is when Robotnik and his grandfather have that dance sequence? I think that's the funniest part of the film. I want a Matt and Kingpin dance sequence. Episode 1, Daredevil. That's it, or I'm tapping out. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The head of Marvel Television is saying that, confirming we're going to get Daredevil season 2 next year, and they're going to actually put out a season every year. What a novel thought. What do you think about that? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, one of the most interesting phenomena ever in the history of television happened with Suits, a show that finished its run kind of very quietly. I think it was on the USA Network or something like that. Had a very quiet but long run, right? But not a lot of people saw it. And then I think 4 or 5 years after it finished, it became the #1 show in the world with new life on Peacock and Netflix. And all of a sudden, the entire planet watched it, and it became the #1 streaming show in the world for like a record set number of weeks. Everybody just watched it. So it's not a big surprise that they're bringing Suits back. Maybe not the way everybody wanted it. They wanted Harvey back and all that kind of stuff. But we're getting Suits LA with Oliver Queen himself, Stephen Amell, playing the new lead. And by the way, Harvey Specter is going to be making some appearances in a couple of episodes as well. It happens in the same universe as the other Suits. Well, the reviews are now coming out, and they're awful. For example, Variety runs its headline, Suits LA should be held in contempt.
Order in the court. Order in the court.
Wow, that is a great
pun
headline.
is awful. I will not sustain that pun.
Where they actually say, everybody knows I'm a big fan of Stephen Amell. I'll always be a supporter of Stephen Amell. But the Variety reviewer comes around and says Stephen Amell, who is horribly miscast in this series. Eesh. And now, granted, they confirm in the review, they themselves affirm that we are basing this review on the first 3 episodes. That's all they gave us to watch. So they've made sure they gave the disclaimer. Everything we're going to say is the first 3 episodes. Maybe the character evolves and they got a longer runtime, all that kind of stuff. But you know what? It's not just Variety. Rotten Tomatoes, as of this morning, has got a 36% on it. And you know, first of all, I've been humming all day in the shower and everything. Do 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 piece of pie for your wife. I love that opening.
Demonetized.
Yeah, oh yeah, there it is. We're done.
It wasn't me for once with my swearing.
I love that opening music. It gets stuck in my head and now it's there. And I even like the concept of doing, hey, this universe, some loosely connected characters doing it in LA, because last one we had a thing. But the main thing I've read in a lot of the reviews was basically this. It's got all the catchy tropes that the original Suits had, but the problem is that those are all just fluff unless they're anchored in main characters you immediately attach yourself to and have great chemistry together. And they're saying that's just kind of the general consensus seems to be this show is missing that. It's that their main characters aren't particularly engrossing, and the chemistry that you had between Mike and Harvey, it was Mike, right? Yeah. Mike and Harvey, that made that show. From the get-go. And Donna. Like, of course, I'm Donna. She's one of the great supporting characters ever. But they just say, it's other than that, with that missing, a lot of these reviewers are saying it's just another lawyer show. Now, I haven't watched episode 1 yet. Again, it's a Stephen Amell show, so I'm definitely, and I love Suits, so I'm going to check it out myself. But I'm basically just relaying everything I've seen other reviewers say. And I'll tell you what, Chris, based on nothing, I was really expecting the reviews of Suits LA to be glowing. I don't know why. I just was. You had a lot of the people behind the original Suits series running this one. And I'm kind of surprised at seeing this. Are you surprised to see what we're seeing, or is this what you expected?
No, I'm surprised and I'm disheartened, especially because back in August of 2024, they moved production from Vancouver here to LA. So I also am very invested in this of, no, we need shows to film here.
Yeah.
Please be good. Please be good. For the love of God, be good. So this is upsetting. I like Stephen Amell a lot. I think he is a wonderful actor. I like this cast a lot too. Just this lineup here is really, really great. I'm hoping this show is better than what we're hearing. Maybe it just takes some time to get its footing. Or, you know, Jonathan has a great theory too.
What's that?
That this show is just not going to do well till it goes to streaming.
Oh, yeah.
Just like,
I'm like, what did I say? Was it genius?
It was so smart.
Yeah. We got to go through a pandemic and then it'll hit
Exactly.
it'll hit the charts.
Then it'll start doing well. Yeah. I'm hoping that people are just maybe comparing it to the original Suits and just upset more so of, well, it's not my friends. These aren't my friends and I don't want to watch this show. And maybe they'll warm up to everybody. I'm wondering if that's just kind of the comparison issue of this is a spiritual successor. And we do have some of the characters popping back up, but it is its own thing. So I'm wondering if we're having too much comparison in those reviews.
maybe. Rob, were you expecting better for that? I don't think you and I've ever even talked about Suits. Did you watch the series?
Okay, I'll tell you about Suits. I started watching Suits because I watched a lot of Suits clips on YouTube.
So many shows get me that way.
I know, and it was the clip where he goes in and he first meets Harvey and he's talking
from
about
the pilot, yeah.
from the pilot, and he can quote chapter and verse these law books, and I'm like, that's what got me watching the show. And it was after I started, I think I'd watched the first 2 seasons, and then suddenly the news came out that everybody was watching Suits, and then some of the cast was upset, like, I'm not getting paid for any of this. And then, like, I understand that, but your deal, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate, is over. You know, and the fact that Suits had this resurgence in its second life is something that proves you got to be very careful when you're negotiating something in the streaming world. But then again, the deals had changed because that was a broadcast show that became a streaming show.
Yeah.
But that show, it petered out for me as it went along. I think like the first 4 seasons maybe were the best.
After Mike went to jail, the show kind of lost something for me after that. I still watched all of it, but it was peak Suits up until he went to jail.
And the thing is, it's hard to sustain that kind of a show. And I'm a sucker for legal dramas. Sucker.
Me too.
I mean, I loved LA Law. I loved 2 seasons of Murder 1. I mean, give me
Didn't
a great
you even like
legal
Boston Legal?
drama. Come on.
Oh, I loved Boston Legal.
The
Come on,
Practice.
Shatner and
Denny Crane.
And Denny Crane, one of the great characters.
Crane,
And
good for good
now Matlock.
And now
I'm
Matlock.
still loving Matlock.
Yeah, because
good.
you have a built-in conflict thing that is irresistible. I used to love The Defenders with E.G. Marshall when I was a little kid.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The first reviews for Suits LA, granted, only based on the first 3 episodes, are now out and they're not looking so good. Are you surprised? Did you see the debut episode? What did you think about it? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, it's funny. I did an open mic yesterday, and in it, somebody asked me, when do you think we're going to get an Andor trailer? I said, I'm going to guess within the next 2 weeks. Within the next 2 weeks. I should have said tomorrow. I should have said tomorrow because today is tomorrow, and Andor Season 2, the first trailer for the new season is dropped, and I will tell you 2 things can seem opposite but are both true. Number 1, the trailer is awesome. It is a great trailer. I loved it, especially that one shot, that very visceral guerrilla warfare where he's flying down in the ship and there's that Imperial vehicle on the road and he fires the missile at it. And I'm just like, oh, like, give me all of this. I loved it. That they had their own Joker moment walking away, click, boom,
Right,
explosion in the background sort of thing. This
Ben
is great.
Mendelsohn.
Bringing up showing Ben Mendelsohn in there as Krennic, them, throwing up all the various accolades. Listen, don't forget, this show, Andor, got the highest honor of any television show you can get. It was nominated for Best Drama Series at the Emmys. And by the way, they're releasing this show in peak Emmy qualification era. They're angling this show to win more Emmys, and it probably will win more Emmys. So I thought the trailer was absolutely fantastic. But we got to talk about the music. Horrible.
You're not a Steve Earle fan?
Horrible. Hey, I'm a big U2 fan. But you play The Streets Have No Name over this trailer. I'm going to tell you that's a horrible piece of music to put into a Star Wars trailer.
I'm making an edit with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Andor trailer with Streets
I
Have
think
No
Disney
Name playing.
invited everybody to take that trailer and just put their own music in it. So they're going to have like 100 different versions of
There you
it
go.
dropping on YouTube by the end of today.
But I remember when the first trailer for Gladiator 2 came out, and they had dropped it with modern music in it. I can't remember what the song was.
Oh yeah, it was bad.
And it was like, what are you doing putting a piece of music like that to a period epic? Like you need orchestral score. And I feel the same way about Star Wars. Actually, before I watched the trailer, Jonathan said, "Oh, I watched it already." I'm like, "Cool." He said, "Yeah, I'm not sure what I think about the music, but yeah, you go watch it." And I thought, what is Ice Cube singing "Fuck the Police" in it or something like that?
I would have loved that.
I corrected
so
That would have been the greatest. That would have been the greatest.
Oh.
thing in the world.
Right?
Do
That
it,
would've-
you cowards.
Yeah,
I let him
somebody
know it
make
was that
that.
show, actually. But.
By the way, by the time this show is off the air today, there will be that version of
Oh,
this
yeah,
trailer
100%
online.
that'll be on
I
there.
can't wait to see it. Good
So,
job, internet.
listen, the music choice, of course it's a great song, but it's not for a Star Wars trailer. Almost ruined the trailer for me. But the trailer itself, minus the music, is so great. I still give it a big enthusiastic smile. I'm very happy about it. I love the trailer. Rob, you had a chance to see the Andor trailer. What did you think about it?
Dude, first of all, I loved Andor, and this looks to me amazing. I mean, what's interesting to me is, I'm always into verisimilitude, the quality of being real. All of this shooting on real locations, like seeing stormtroopers in a wheat field,
Yeah.
like a real, you want to see these different environments. I mean, you can tell they're outside. They're not shooting against a volume screen, which is, and I'll tell you something else. You know what? For all the droids and all the Wookiees and all the Cantina denizens and everything, Star Wars is always best when it's about human beings as central characters, because we identify with them.
Right.
And the great thing about the first Star Wars is you had Ben, you had Han, you had Luke, and yeah, you had 3PO and R2, and yeah, you had Chewbacca, and yeah, you had but it was human beings that we relate to. And what Andor has done is it's brought the focus back on human characters. So to me, Saw Gerrera, you see these people, you're immediately invested. When I'm watching a bunch of characters in makeup and everything, I'm like, well, that was cool in animation, but watching, I don't have the same connection. And looking at these characters, man, every time somebody showed up, whether it was Luthen, I'm like, fuck yeah, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
he's one of my favorite
can't wait.
characters right now in all of television.
Well, and this to me, it changes my machete order of how to watch Star Wars. If I was going to show Star Wars if I had a son, I would show my son Andor first, and then show him Rogue One, and then A New Hope. You can incorporate this into that machete order. You watch Empire, and then you go back and you watch Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and then go back to Jedi, and the machete order, right?
Oh, yeah.
Chris,
That old chestnut.
you had a chance to see the trailer. What did you think about it?
Oh, it's a great teaser. It's excellent. The action looks epic. All of our favorite people are in this. I think it looks wonderful. Now, do I get much of what's happening in this season? No, but it's a teaser. Music didn't bother me as much as you guys, where it was just, oh, that's a little odd, but that's just because Star Wars, I think, for this kind of Star Wars, not Skeleton Crew, this kind of Star Wars, we're so used to classical music, orchestral kind of pieces, big sweeping movements in the music. But I feel like this works. And I love Rob's theory here of the internet's going to go with this and run with it and give it all this different music. The chat is on fire, by the way, with a whole bunch of Andor puns about music. You guys are the best. A lot of them are not safe for work, so I will not say them. I'm trying to get better about not swearing so much on this show. But I'm really excited about this. And I say that as a person who, and I know I'm in the minority, when I watched Rogue One, I went, this is fine. because I didn't have time to get invested in these characters.
Right.
I didn't have time to really mourn the loss of these people. And Andor is such a great show. I still find that Andor himself is the least interesting person in his own show. Which is a shame because Diego Luna's so good. He's so excellent.
But
And
it's
I'm
a testament to
hoping-
how good their secondary characters are.
And I'm hoping that we beef him up a little bit more in this season and I
think
get
we
more
will.
with him.
I like seeing the
You know what
passage
I-
of time, though.
Yes.
You see two different
Yeah.
versions of him. One where he's really cleaned up, and
Yeah.
one where he's more gruff. So
And
I'm
that's what I was
curious.
gonna say to that, because that last like grin he gives and his hair slicked back. Yeah.
Now, of course, one of the big things, the story points that has to happen in Andor if it's going to get us to Rogue One, is that the rebels have to realize that the key to victory is having Influencer Rebel. They had
Yep.
Influencer Rebel,
Yep.
could have changed the tide of the entire rebellion. Anyway, guys, question
Dude.
is for you. What do you think about the Andor trailer? I loved it, but I hated the music choice, but whatever. How did you feel about it? Maybe you felt completely the opposite of me. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still have a number of things we need to talk about, including Captain America 4 suffering the third biggest second weekend drop-off in MCU history. Colin Farrell, Timothee Chalamet, Demi Moore, a lot of big winners at the SAG Awards that happened last night. And, Deadpool creator Rob Liefeld is not just mad that he didn't get invited to a party, he is now publicly calling for Kevin Feige to be fired. That and a few things more. We're going to get to all of that. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Kikoff. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Kikoff. Man, time flies, doesn't it? 1 minute, you're reminiscing about your last vacation, and the next, you're thinking about major life goals, like buying a car, getting that dream home. But if your credit isn't where it needs to be, those goals can feel out of reach. And that's where Kikoff comes in, the #1 credit building app in the App Store that makes it easy, affordable, and stress-free to build credit fast. And that's exactly why I love Kikoff. They give you a credit line for just building credit, not for spending. Your on-time payments get reported to the 3 major credit bureaus, helping you improve your credit mix and payment history, 2 of the biggest factors in credit growth. If your credit is under 600, you could see a jump of about 28 points in your first month. No credit check, no hidden fees, no interest, just smart credit building. Building credit can happen faster than you expect with Kikoff. Don't wait. Get your first month for just $1 at getkickoff.com/Campea. That's kickoff without the C. Get 80% off at getkickoff.com/Campea. Must sign up via getkickoff.com/Campea to activate offer. Offer applies to new customers first month only, subject to approval. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions may apply. Point stat based on Equifax Vantage Score 3.0 changes for Kickoff users starting under 600 who made their first on-time payment between January of 2021 and March of 2024. Payment and credit activity outside Kickoff can have an impact on your credit. Individual results may vary. And thank you to our friends at Kickoff for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, Captain America Brave New World, a film that I didn't particularly like. I didn't hate it, but I didn't particularly like it. I didn't think it was very good. Had an okay opening weekend, $88 million. Amazing for many films. There are directors out there that would kill to have a movie with an $88 million opening weekend, but rather mundane for an MCU film. The big question a lot of us had was, what's the second weekend drop going to be? Somebody asked in the show last week, what if it takes like a 67% drop? And I said, well, I don't think it'll take a 67% drop, but it would be particularly bad, especially when you consider that not much is opening against its second weekend. Well, I was right, sort of. It didn't take a 67% drop. It took an 68.3% drop. As Captain America Brave New World pulled in about 20-something million dollars on its second weekend, $28.2 million, representing a 68.3% drop from weekend one. This makes Captain America Brave New World the third largest drop, second weekend drop, in MCU history. As we look at some of the other ones that they've had there, the #1, the biggest, and I think that they will ever have, the biggest second weekend drop was the Marvels, with a just simply mind-boggling 78% drop. Next was Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, that had a 69.9% drop. Then, of course, you've got Captain America Brave New World is now the third biggest drop ever in history with Marvel history with 68.3% drop. Black Widow, which opened in a pandemic era and was day and date with Disney Plus, had a 67.8% drop. Thor Love and Thunder had a 67.7% drop. Spider-Man No Way Home had a 67.5% drop. And Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness had a 67% drop. Now, of course, with movies like Spider-Man No Way Home, that movie had a $200+ million opening weekend. So, of course, its second weekend was going to be kind of a big drop. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness had a massive opening weekend. So you expect a little bit of a bigger second weekend drop. That's fine. But not for movies like Ant-Man and the Wasp, Marvel's, Thor, Love and Thunder, Captain America, Brave New World, which is unfortunate. Interesting thing to note, though, of these 7 films, you can bring up that list again for a second, Jonathan. Of these 7 films, every single one of them, except for Spider-Man, well, no, including Spider-Man No Way Home. Yeah. Every single one of these are post-Endgame movies.
Yep.
The Marvel's Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain America. Now, obviously, films, again, you give a pass to No Way Home because it's such a big opening weekend. You give a pass to Doctor Strange because it's such a big opening weekend. Obviously, films like Deadpool and Wolverine are not on here. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is not on here if they succeeded. But it's an interesting thing. Every single one of the films on this are all post
Eternals isn't on there either.
Endgame. Eternals is not on that list.
Yay.
I think it's in the top 10. I think it might be in the top 10, but it did not make the list. So good for Eternals. I was talking about this a little bit on open mic yesterday. Here's something that really adds insult to injury on this. It had absolutely nothing opening against it in its second weekend. If you add up the number 2, because by the way, with $28 million, Captain America was still the number 1 movie at the box office this weekend. But if you take the number 2, number 3, and number 4 box office movies this weekend and add them all together, $26 million of box office. Basically, nobody went to go see anything else either.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, well, people couldn't go see Captain America on the second weekend because they were all so busy going to see everything else. If you add up Paddington in Peru, The Monkey, and Dogman all together, $26 million of box office. So everybody was available, and yet still nobody went to go see it. I think that, of course, is unfortunate. I want every Marvel movie, I want every DC movie, I want every movie to succeed and do well and all that kind of stuff. I even ones I'm not particularly a fan of, such as Captain America, Brave New World. But it is what it is. Captain America, Brave New World right now sits at $289 million. Probably needs to get close to $400 million to think about breaking even. I still think there's a chance here it can get to that point. I still think there are avenues and paths to victory for Captain America Brave New World to break even. Maybe. We'll see. But this brings up some big questions about where does the MCU go from here? Does it make them rethink the role of Sam Wilson in the MCU moving forward? It's very difficult to contemplate having one character be the face of your cinematic universe when nobody's going to go see that character's movie. Then again, I don't know that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has many other viable options at this point. Now, what I said on open mic this weekend was that this is horrible for them, but I do not think all is lost for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has been on a very positive roll lately. Everything from obviously Deadpool and Wolverine, Comic-Con was a big win for them. D23 was a big win for them. The narrative about the general buzz about the MCU as compared to like a year and a half ago has completely changed. Whereas a year and a half ago, everybody was feeling more negative about the MCU. Prior to Captain America, Brave New World coming out, definitely on the uptick. So Captain America, Brave New World hits. I think it's a bit of a road bump, yes, but I don't think it's much more than that because fortunately for Marvel, we now got coming up Daredevil, Thunderbolts, which I think is going to be awesome, and Fantastic Four, which I also think is going to be awesome. So I think this will become a road bump, the last vestiges of the Bob Chapek era that everybody will look back on and say that was just a bump in the road, and they can move forward. Anyway, Chris, we were all surprised, not surprised. We were all kind of underwhelmed by the performance of Captain America first weekend. We were all very curious what we would do second weekend. Third biggest drop in the franchise's history. Were you surprised by that? And what, if anything, does that mean for the MCU now and moving forward.
I wasn't surprised. I was one of the people who went and saw it this weekend because that's when I had time to. And I don't think it's as bad as other people who were talking about this before the show started today. Act 1, great. Act 2, we started losing our footing. Act 3, that's when things started to unravel. But I feel like there's no denying that Mackie is so charismatic. He is a great Sam Wilson. They just need to find the right things for him to do. Dana Ramirez, who plays Joaquin, so fun and charming. I love their dynamic together. They just need a stronger script for these guys. And unfortunately, this movie had an uphill battle from the start.
It did.
People wanted this movie to be so many things. I just wanted this movie to be good. People wanted it to say one thing politically, another thing politically, and I think it could have dove into those things a bit more. But I feel like we just had some issues with where this was supposed to fit into the Marvel universe. To me, what this says more so about movies than the Marvel universe is if there is not glowing reviews of something, people wait for streaming. Because if we look at the box office for everything else that weekend, right? If you just didn't go to the movies, we're conditioned now to, I'll just catch that on streaming. People had mixed reviews about it. I don't know if I'm going to see it. And I know that's what my own group has been saying, even people outside of the comic book and movie bubble of, I heard that didn't get great reviews. I'll just watch it when it's on Disney+. I feel like that's more of the thing that's happening here than, oh my gosh, people aren't excited about the Marvel universe at all, or this is dropping off, whatever. I feel like the MCU is going to be healthy. I feel like this movie is just part of the growing pains of adjusting to a post-Endgame Infinity War world. We haven't really been able to stick the landing on a lot of these Marvel movies, and I feel like this is us moving in the right direction. And so this wasn't going to be a, let's blow the doors off the box office, this is going to sweep in a whole bunch of stuff. Even if it was a great movie, I feel like people still would have had the same kind of, I'll see it when I see it. I feel like this is the kind of slow progression to getting to a great movie like Thunderbolts, a hopefully great movie like Fantastic Four. I'm really hoping those are excellent and we can keep moving upward. I don't think this is a cry out for, the house is on fire or something starting to burn. I feel like this is just part of them getting into this next phase with a new cast of characters forming on the lunchbox.
This is a bit of a spoiler. You know one thing that really made me shake my head?
What?
So when I used to love the CW show Arrow. I used to love Arrow.
Same.
And then it hit this point sometime in season 3 where literally they got to a point where everybody's a superhero. Hey, you took some night classes. You can be Captain Buckles. And now you went and took some boxing classes at the local YMCA. You're a superhero. Hey, you walk around the streets tonight just putting on a hockey mask. You're a superhero. At the end of Captain America, they literally take Joaquin, who is an administrative assistant, and gets in his first big conflict and nearly dies. And at the end of the movie he goes, you're going to reform the Avengers with me. I'm like, that's an Avenger? Is that where we are now? That's an Avenger? Anyway, I had a lot of disappointments with this film myself personally. But anyway, Rob, we now see the second weekend, word of mouth did not get out there and save the film. This movie isn't going to rally. Even though nobody had anything else to go see, they still didn't come to see this. Are you surprised by how, I'll be honest with you, I am surprised how big of a drop. I was expecting about a 60% drop. I was not expecting 68. Are you surprised by the drop it took? And what do you think this says about the MCU currently, moving forward, all that kind of stuff?
I think the MCU is currently in the grips of an existential problem that has existed since the end of Endgame. And that existential problem is none of these movies are consequential. They don't matter. You watch them, and unless the movie itself is engaging, there's no, the thing that the first 23 movies of the Infinity Saga, the entire Infinity Saga did from the very outset, was it said there is a meta story happening here. It gave us, first of all, the first Iron Man's a great movie. If that was the only movie they ever made, it would go down in history as one of the great superhero films, with a great star turn. The story was all about Tony Stark. It wasn't about anything else other than his come to Jesus moment, and him wanting to change and fighting for his own soul and the soul of his company. But at the end of that movie, you have Nick Fury show up and go, I'm going to talk about the Avengers Initiative. So you knew that there was a meta story that was being built upon everything that was going on. And then you introduce these beloved characters, and then what do? You take all these beloved characters, you tear them apart in the Civil War. So you're following these characters that are beloved in individual movies. Then when they start getting together, you love their dynamic. Then they get torn apart. Like, what's going to happen with my favorite people? Why are they mad? The family's torn apart, torn asunder. Then they hit us with Infinity War and Endgame, which are two of the most fun fantasy films of all time. And then when you are done, since then they've been floundering. They've been trying to make this multiverse happen, and it's like fetch. You keep trying to make the multiverse happen. Nobody cares. It's all disparate. Like what's happening in Loki has no effect on what's happening over here. What's happening in Eternals? Arishem the judge shows up and says, "I'm going to come back and judge this whole planet." Nobody cares. There's no reason to see these movies other than the superhero action. And if the superhero action is mundane, I would say that Captain America: Brave New World was mundane. It was standard superhero action. There was nothing in it that's surprising. And what is surprising? Not the action, but the character development. Character. You have to look at Iron Man 1 and go, okay. Then you have to look at Captain America, the first Avenger, and then you look at Thor. That's your template. And if you're not doing that in your movies, it's not going to be good. They should have looked back and made this movie all about Sam Wilson being Captain America. But no, we have Thunderbolt Ross being the Hulk. We've got the leader. We've got all this stuff that has nothing to do with it.
It was a Hulk sequel.
But even that, it had nothing. The Hulk was 17 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it's like, who cares? Make this Sam Wilson's Iron Man.
Sure.
Give him something personal and make it only about him and what he has to do. And the thing is, they had an opportunity. If they wanted to do the multiverse, the multiverse split or whatever should have been a byproduct of Thanos snapping his fingers. And they should have said, by that unleashment of energy, when the entire universe was disrupted, it ripped the fabric of space-time. So you had everything is building upon something else. And they didn't do that. They gave us Black Widow. I mean, after that, who cares? She was dead, even though I like Black Widow. And I love Yelena. Florence Pugh can do no wrong. But my God, man, they have botched this every single time. And am I excited about Thunderbolts? Yeah. But you know what it's going to be? It's going to be a mundane superhero movie. They're going to introduce the Sentry as a threat. Who's the Sentry? We don't know. He's never been here before. We're going to meet him for the first time. Who cares? I want to know what's going to happen leading up to Doomsday. What's going to happen with the multiverse?
You and I have always disagreed on this. Because you can have a Marvel Cinematic Universe that puts in all these connective tissues to the other things and still be a bad movie. I think if you make the movie in and of itself a good movie.
Yes.
Like Deadpool and Wolverine, like you've pointed out many times, it's a very isolated movie, right? Like it's really an in and of itself movie. And it's remarkable and it enjoyed incredible success despite the fact that it's not building up. I don't think Thunderbolts needs to build up to Doomsday. You can build it up to Doomsday.
No, I'm saying every movie could be like Iron Man 1. I don't think it has to build up and have connective tissue. But what made the MCU good is that connective tissue led someplace. Mm-hmm. And it led someplace in addition to having all these great individual movies that were about characters.
Yeah.
And that's what you should do. This movie was about 10 different things.
Well, I mean, that was my problem with this movie. It wasn't so much about where it did and did not lead. It was just, what I said when I did my out of the theater reaction, I said, it's not just that it's not a good comic book movie. It's not a good movie.
No.
From all the fundamentals of making a good movie. And let me ask both of you guys this. If, and this is a big if, I think we all assumed that Chadwick Boseman was probably on the roadmap to be the next face of the MCU and T'Challa probably the next leader of the Avengers. Yeah. Obviously, with the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman, maybe they pivot. If, and that's a big if, nobody anywhere has ever said Sam Wilson's going to be the leader of the Avengers moving forward. But if that was on their plate over at Marvel HQ, that Sam Wilson was going to become the new face of the Avengers, the new leader of the Avengers, do you think the public's lack of interest in this movie would cause them to rethink that? Or do you think they still move forward with that at this point? I don't know, Chris, what do you think?
I could see them potentially pivoting. I could see that. They really need to, because this was the issue, is that Sam was relegated to sidekick again in his own movie to the other plot points that they wanted to revisit. Am I glad we brought in the Hulk stuff and tied some of that up? Yes, but I don't know if this was the movie to do that in. And the leader was totally wasted. That was pointless and not satisfying.
Can I just say that was the dumbest, brilliant villain we've ever had? Like he's supposed to be so brilliant, but everything he did was so fundamentally stupid.
Yeah, I didn't love it. I didn't love
And it
the
had
use of
nothing to do
him.
with Sam Wilson.
No, and
No,
I
yeah.
feel like that's the thing. And maybe they felt like revisiting do I have the right to be Cap felt redundant from Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Should I take the serum? We've already covered
Yeah.
that before.
But then you can explore how Sam now has taken ownership of, I deserve to be here. And especially when you do pair that with the Isaiah Bradley situation of, listen, we have been exploited. We have been taken advantage of. We have not been respected. And I'm here to tell you that I got this shield from Steve Rogers. I am Captain America, whether you like it or not. And I'm not going to kowtow to the government because that's not what Steve would do either. That's the reason why he picked me, because I know what's right and what's wrong. I know how to stand up for my country, even when the people in my country are not making the best choices for the American people. Like, that's such a more interesting story. And I feel like if they had done some of that stuff, we would have felt more ready for Sam to be the leader. I feel like right now he's going to be more like HR of, let me bring in people who fit our corporate culture.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there.
It boggles my mind that they keep talking about how he has Wakandan armor. Why weren't Wakanda at, like, we have France, Japan, and India in this
Well, because
movie.
they're an isolationist nation.
But why, if you had a celestial coming out of the ocean, why wasn't Atlantis all over this
Talocan?
place?
Yeah.
Why weren't they there? Why wasn't Wakanda there? Who cares about the nations of the world that we've never met these world leaders anyway? In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you've got Wakanda, which is the most powerful nation on the planet.
They almost went to war against the whole planet in the first Black Panther.
And you have Atlantis that's dealing with, we don't even have to worry about humans polluting the ocean. Now we have alien technology, celestials polluting our ocean, and you don't even mention them? I mean, it's just, it's so maddening.
Okay,
But
well,
it also took us 17 years to address the Hulk.
Yeah, by the way, a movie that hardly anybody today has ever seen, despite the fact that I'm in it. You should see it. But
Solely for that. Just go for
I
that.
carry that film, but I mean nobody's seen it. And anyway, plus I don't want this to
I
just
know.
evolve into another post-mortem
Yeah.
on, but it is interesting to see where they're at and where it may go. Guys, question is for you. What do you think the repercussions are going to be for Marvel HQ as a whole, seeing that not only did it not exactly have the best opening weekend, but it's had truly one of their worst second weekends ever? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? The SAG Awards. When it comes to acting, it's the second most important award. Obviously, the Oscars are the most, but the second most important award that an actor could possibly get is at the SAGs, the Screen Actor Guild themselves handing out the awards. And while there were a couple of non-surprises, there were also a couple of big surprises. Let's go on and take a look at the results here. Now, their version of Best Picture, which is Best Ensemble by a cast in a motion picture, Conclave took it. By the way, that's like the second or third big win for them in the last week or two. Conclave is suddenly making a push as we're heading towards the Oscars now. It was up against A Complete Unknown, Anora, Emilia Perez, and Wicked, and Conclave ended up taking Best. I'm still kind of hoping that Ralph Fiennes finally gets to give up his title of Best Actor on the Planet without an Oscar. We'll see how that goes. All right, so Conclave took home their version of that. Now, in the Best Actor, throughout award season, we've seen a couple of people winning, but Timothee Chalamet, Willy Wonka Atreides, takes home Best Actor, his first major win this award season, I think, for it. This was a total surprise. Beating out Adrian Brody, Daniel Craig, Coleman Domingo, and Ralph Fiennes, the aforementioned Best Actor on the Planet without an Academy Award. And Timothee Chalamet took home Best Thing.
The best part is he did it in character.
And
He's doing Norm Macdonald as Burt Reynolds.
Norm Macdonald as Burt Reynolds. Turd Ferguson.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my name. It's funny. Turd Ferguson. If any of you know that reference, kudos to you. All right. Outstanding performance by a female actor in a leading role. It's kind of coming down to a two-horse race between Mikey Madison from Anora and Demi Moore. And Demi Moore took this one. She took home the SAG Mikey Madison's been winning a bunch lately. She's been building up a lot of momentum. Chris, what were you mentioning to me earlier off camera about this?
So the past 3 years, the SAG Awards have predicted who's going to win the Oscars, essentially, down to every single category, except last year when Lily Gladstone won at the SAG Awards,
SAG.
and then Emma Stone won at the Oscars. But for the past 3 years, you've been able to just be like, oh yeah, I can kind of cheat off of the SAGs for going over to my little roster for my Oscar parties.
So best performance by male actor in supporting role. This is the one category that may be a lock going into the Oscars. Kieran Culkin for Real Pain. I can't think of a major award this award season that he didn't win this award for. So that sounds like it's kind of be an automatic. Best performance by female actor in a supporting role. Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. I don't like that movie. Her performance is fantastic.
Yeah.
She's really great in it. I can't believe a year ago, I would never imagine myself saying this. I might have cast my vote for Ariana Grande in this for Wicked. I was shocked how good I thought she was in Wicked, but it looks like Zoe Saldana may be the lock for that. Best stunt ensemble went to Fall Guy. No surprising there. Then we got into outstanding performance by a male actor in a TV movie or limited series. A lot of people thought the dude from Baby Reindeer, Richard Gadd, would take it. Colin Farrell for the Penguin takes it again. He's been winning a lot of the awards this year. Fully well-deserved. Well done to Colin Farrell and everybody over at Warner Brothers in DC and the Penguin, bolstering the argument why Penguin should absolutely get a season 2. And Colin Farrell, you've never gotten this much attention in your life, man. Put that 80 pounds of makeup back on. All right. Outstanding performance by a female actor in a television movie. Jessica Gunning from the aforementioned Baby Reindeer. Outstanding performance. This is their version of Best Series. Outstanding performance by an ensemble and drama. Oh, everybody knows. Shogun. Of course, Shogun, because it's one of the greatest things ever on television. And then they swept up everything else as well. Best actor in a drama series, Hiroyuki Sanada for Shogun. Best performance by a lead actress, Anna Sawai for Shogun. Cannot wait for Monarch Season 2. And I love this. Outstanding performance by an ensemble, basically best comedy series.
I was so happy to see that.
Only Murders in the Building. Of course, you do not see Steve Martin or Martin Short here because they both got COVID at the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary special. Apparently, a whole bunch of people
The year
got
they
it.
finally win and the year that Martin Short wins.
Yeah, and Martin Short won Best Actor in a Comedy Series.
So sad
And he
for
couldn't
him.
be there to accept it, beating out Jeremy Allen White, who is the proverbial favorite all the time. Best Female Actress in a Comedy Series, no surprise, Jean Smart for
She's
Hacks.
still good.
Mm-hmm.
And Best Stunt Ensemble in a Series, Shogun. So that pretty much now draws to a conclusion the award season for Shogun. Like, of course, we got the Oscars coming up. That's not television. Number one, just as a note, I don't think we have ever had an award season, where one show so completely obliterated the field as Shogun has. Again, it won
But it only has one English guy in it. And he doesn't have the charm of Richard Chamberlain.
Oh my God, don't even get me started on that guy again. So, of course, it set the all-time record for most Emmy wins with 18. Then it swept up at everything else. Critics' Choice, Golden Globes, everything else. Now the SAG Awards, the Emmys, obviously, so Shogun. The most interesting one to me on this, aside from Conclave winning the SAG's version of Best Picture, again, was Timothee Chalamet. I thought he could have won for Dune Part 2, but he won for another movie of his. I mean, between Wonka, Dune Part 2, and now this, I mean, this dude's on a streak, because I thought he was wonderful in Wonka. I loved that movie. He's so good in Dune. He was so good in this. But I don't know, Chris, you pointed out to the fact that SAGs have kind of forecasted the acting categories at the Oscars. Mm-hmm. Timothy hasn't really won any of the major ones up until this point. What does this do to the best actor category at the Oscars now?
This year has been bananas in our best actor, best female actor category. I don't understand who is going to win. I have no idea who's going to win, because every single awards has been different. You know, we have Nora winning over here, and then we've got, Sebastian Stan winning for different films that he's done this year. He keeps getting nominated for like one movie or the other. It's wild. It's all over the place. I do think, and this was something Amy Newman brought to my attention, Demi Moore gave such a great Golden Globe speech about how it's been for her career, how she's been perceived, how she's overcome these things. And also the substance falls into that category of stunning women making themselves absolutely grotesque that the Oscars seems to love. So I feel like maybe she's just kind of clinched that win there. But best actor, male actor, is the one that I don't know who is going to take it. I would love for Rafe to get it. I think it'd be well deserved. I finally watched Conclave. Loved that movie. Oh my gosh. I thought
That movie is so good.
I went into it being like, I don't think I'm going to like this from going to Catholic school and everything. I'm just going to have this knee-jerk, like, stink face on the whole time of like, I don't want to like these people. Loved that movie. All the vaping, what the hell? It was great.
Although I had Chrissy Denisio sitting behind me when I went and saw it.
Oh, really?
It was pretty great for that kind of a movie.
Just a little drunk
there'd be
version
like
of
those-
me being like, this bullshit.
There'd be like
Oh,
no,
sorry.
there'd be like those moments of like a mic drop, and all of a sudden I hear behind me like, exactly. I'm like,
Great. I
When-
love her.
and then
Wherever
he
you
picked-
are, you're wonderful.
when he picks his name, John, right? He's like, I'll be John. She's like, who?
But by the way, it
Why?
really going into the Oscars now. It looks like this is a 3-horse race for Best Actor because you got Ralph Fiennes, Adrian Brody, of course, for The Brutalist, and Timothee Chalamet whose name was not in the mix
No.
until now.
Uh-huh.
So now I have. It's not even a coin toss. It's a try toss.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Rob, were there any big surprises? And out of those 3, who do you think ends up taking the Oscar?
It's a tough one. I think Timothée Chalamet was a surprise, even though he was great.
He
as
killed it
Dylan.
in that movie.
I mean, he really killed it in that movie. Look, I just think that I think more people have seen, especially as far as actors go, more people have seen A Complete Unknown than Conclave. More
Yeah.
people have actors gravitated seeing The Brutalist. It's all about who's voting. And the actors branch voting, I would say that as much as Ralph Fiennes, between Schindler's List, Strange Days, and of course The English Patient, became one of my favorite actors. I love Ralph Fiennes.
Didn't even mention Harry Potter.
Yeah, but I know I have a Voldemort action figure. It's fine. But look, man, I'm all about Amalfi's character in English Patient. But I want him to win, like you. I love Ralph Fiennes. I love Ralph Fiennes.
I think you're right. I think it would be his time to win it. Last week I did say that Timothée Chalamet could be the dark horse.
You did.
Of course,
You did.
You knocked me down a peg when you reminded me about The Brutalist, though, with Adrian Brody.
Well, that's
I was
the
like,
problem. That performance is staggering.
Yeah.
The performance in The Brutalist is staggering, but he's already won one. He
Yeah.
won for The Pianist,
That's never deterred the Oscar
I know,
voters
that's what I'm
before.
saying. I'd like to see first-timers get those awards. I'd love to see Ralph Fiennes win.
I would too. I think it could be Chalamet.
I mean, he played Francis Dollarhide in Red Dragon. He deserves
All
to
right,
win.
guys. The question is for you. What do you think about the SAG Awards? I mean, a couple of really big surprises, some really interesting things. Conclave for them is basically their best picture. Timothée Chalamet wins best actor. Couple of no big surprises. Zoe Saldana taking it. Demi Moore taking it. I don't know. Is it going to be Demi or Mickey? It's going to be last year all over again. Which one of the two is going to take it? I don't know. Whatever stood out to you the most, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. Let's move on to this, shall we? In today's episode of Angry Old Man Yelling at the Clouds, Rob Liefeld, creator of the Deadpool comic, is back in the news again. And I just want to listen, let me give this preface. I have met Rob on several occasions. He came into our studio
Yes.
and has done shows with us.
Yes.
And hung out with us after. Really like the guy. Super charming. I've always liked him. Super favorable. Now, of course, then he's kind of become this guy who likes to put himself in the news lately. Of course, recently we talked about the fact that he came out publicly and said, I will never work with Marvel again. As it turns out, because they didn't invite him to a party. A party he should have been invited to.
They should have just let him in the door, whether he had the invite or not.
I agree. They just should have. I mean, they should have let him in.
And his family.
And his
Yeah,
family.
of course, yeah.
Of course, he was there they invited him to the premiere. They didn't invite him to the after party. They should have invited him. Is that grounds for coming out and saying, I vow I will never work with you again? I don't know. He's been invited to a lot of parties thanks to the Deadpool movie success. But anyway, Rob Liefeld has decided to take it to another level. as he is now publicly calling for Kevin Feige to be fired from Marvel. Rob Liefeld took to social media, responding to a social media post about the financial struggles of Captain America Brave New World, which, by the way, is still about to cross $300 million, and said, get Feige off the mound he's spent.
He didn't complain about this last July with Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yep. Get Feige off the mound. He's done. Get him out. Fire him. Can't do it anymore. Didn't the last movie put out make $1.3 billion? Doesn't matter. Didn't like that Doctor Strange movie make it almost $1 billion? Doesn't matter. Wasn't Egg Long a big surprise hit? Doesn't matter.
Guardians 3, 800.
Guardians
plus.
3 made over 800 million. Doesn't matter. He's spent. And he's done. I hate saying this because, like I said, I personally think he probably doesn't remember me from a hole in the wall, but I remember hanging out with Rob Liefeld at our studios, and I've really liked him. But man, this guy has just become a whiny sulk, desperate to keep himself in the headlines. And it's like, I mean, literally the most successful producer in Hollywood history. Guy with films nominated for Best Picture, highest box office totals in history. Like, I lost count of how many of the top 10 movies all time are Kevin Feige movies. I've lost count. It's more than 2 or 3 are Kevin Feige movies. And Captain America Brave New World came out. Not a success. I don't like the film. But that's enough for Rob Liefeld to come out and scream at the clouds. Get Feige off the mound. He's spent. This for me, Rob, unfortunately now I think we were close, but this little thing has pushed me to the thing of, I don't think we're ever covering anything Rob Liefeld ever says again. I think I think he's done now. He's done. His relevance is over. This type of thing is just, and listen, again, you'll be hard pressed to find somebody who's as much of a critic of Captain America Brave New World as I am. But like this sort of thing is just like, yeah, I think we're safe to say, let's never talk about Rob Liefeld again. Anything he now says is just old man screaming at the clouds. I don't know. Listen, you've been on shows with him as well. I know you appreciate him. I don't know. What do you think about this? This social
Rob
media
Liefeld,
post?
I'm a huge fan. I'll say I was a huge fan of his when I first saw his Hawk and Dove art back for DC in the 80s. Rob Liefeld's been out here before. You know, he had a big riff with Todd McFarlane. They're friends again. Hey, he did a Spike Lee directed Levi's commercial. You can't. But here's what I would say. First of all, and Kevin Feige, you know, I coined the phrase, he's our Lord and Savior for the comic book movie. Mm-hmm. Kevin Feige is the one man on planet Earth who has a hot toy of himself. Hot Toys made a Kevin Feige hot toy. And to me, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. He also has greenlit a series about Vision created by Terry Matalas. And I think the way Terry Matalas handled Data in Star Trek Picard Season 3 shows that Terry's got some unique insight in how do you humanize artificial life. I think that was a great move. And I think, you know, after you are as successful as Kevin Feige had been, there's no way to go but down. But I think what Rob is mad about, I think his anger might be misplaced. I don't think it's necessarily Kevin Feige, because remember, Kevin Feige was
I don't know, man. It sounds like it's a pretty personal grudge against Kevin Feige.
Yeah, it sounds personal, but I'm like, look, Jim Starlin, who created Thanos, he appeared in Endgame, you know, as one of the men in the therapy group that Captain America is speaking to in the beginning of the film. And there was they've paid a lot of respect to creators, especially in Fox put Len Wein in Days of Future Past, who co-created. But there's been some really weird things that Marvel corporate has done. For instance, adding names to the creator of Wolverine recently, which was something that was already settled, but no, Marvel opened that back up. What Bo DeMeo, who created X-Men 97, has been saying. And I don't know if there's something other than what's happening. I think Rob is litigating this in the court of public opinion, which I think is a mistake. But I think that the way Marvel is treating creators, comic creators specifically, or creators there might be something going on that we don't know about that has pissed Rob Liefeld off. Him, because being the most, obviously, he did create a Deadpool. There was a lot of other creators that added to his wisecracking, breaking the fourth wall, which is not how Deadpool was when Rob created him. So I think there might be something else going on. I don't think anything like this is good form. And I'm a fan of Rob's, and I would say, Rob, don't do this, because I like him very, very much. And I think that, Kevin Feige, he's trying to bring back the Fantastic Four. He retooled Daredevil. He's still making some great moves, and I'm looking forward to what Doomsday is going to offer, and I can't wait to see Secret Wars. So I think both of these gentlemen should, shake hands and move forward together.
Why?
Well, that's the thing. I know Kevin Feige doesn't have to. It's just because I like him. I've never met Kevin Feige, and I think he honestly likes Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock too much. But that's just neither here nor there. But I do think I don't like to see. Sorry, I don't like. They did a great podcast on the Inglorious Trexperts together. I don't know. It bums me
the
out.
impression I get is, and I fully confess, this is just my impression that could be 1,000 miles off. Okay. The impression I get from Rob Liefeld is that he feels like, I remember when the first Deadpool movie came out, he was kind of treated like royalty.
Right.
When the first one came out, right? And then the second one came out, not as much, not as much, but I feel like, and again, this is purely my impression that could be 1,000 miles off. Okay. Don't take this as fact, but it kind of feels like he feels if Deadpool's ever got a thing, I should be front and center. You should be taking me on the press tours. You should be putting me out in front of the press.
Yeah.
You should be having me come up on stage at the premiere. And I feel like he feels like he should have that every time anything happens with Deadpool. And it's like, you got your flowers already. I mean, they took a character you created, yes, but now they've made it its own thing. But I don't know, Chris, you see this? Impressions?
I think Rob's onto something here with there has to be something more happening. The not being invited to after parties and things like that, I do think that's just bad form. I think that's not a good move. And The Guardian reported earlier this past year that a lot of these creators have maybe been paid like $5,000 and given a premiere invite if they get the premiere invite for their work, or they get a special thanks for the work that they've created or the work that they've drawn from, even if these weren't their original characters, the source materials that they brought to the table, they get a, hey, thanks for that. So there does seem like there is a little bit of, there's like a lack of respect for these creators. It feels like, I don't know if that's actually true. These are just things that have been reported, but it does feel like maybe they're not giving credit to the people who made these characters that are so beloved and now are on our screens. That being said, I agree that the way that Rob Liefeld is treating this and handling this is not the best. Once again, I come back to so many people need PR training. So many people do not need to be heard every waking moment of the day. Again, I know that I'm a hypocrite. I'm on a show where I talk about my opinions, but I also know that you all should disagree with my opinions. If you do, like, air that, let me know that. But I'm also not going to go out of my way to talk smack about somebody who I don't agree with necessarily. This also kind of rings like, and I know this is a crazy comparison, but if I worked with a director who I did not enjoy, and then like going full scorched earth on everything. Now, if that person was a genuinely horrible person who treated all of their people on set terribly and had so much misconduct, yes, you do that. But if you just don't like each other, you don't have to let everyone know that, right? That's why you should spend time talking about the things you love more than things you hate. That's why it's so easy when you work with somebody like Rob, right? Of, oh, I can talk about what a great time I had on this project all day long. And on other projects where I haven't had a good time, I go, oh yeah, that one happened and it wasn't the best time for me, but I'd like to pivot to something else. Or, hey, I really don't appreciate how I was treated in this. I really wish that I had gotten that invite. They must have lost it. Moving forward, I don't think I'm going to work with Marvel as much, as opposed to now continually talking about how this guy has to go. That just seems in poor taste.
Right. Look, I'd also say I don't think that Kevin Feige was in charge of the party list for the Deadpool and Wolverine premiere. And I'll say one more thing. You know, I've been working with Max Allan Collins on this True Noir project that he wrote. He also wrote the graphic novel Road to Perdition.
Right.
Turns into a movie by Sam Mendes, coming off the Oscar for American Beauty. Stars Paul Newman, Tom Hanks, Jude Law, Daniel Craig. They basically, this is the man who created this whole thing. They basically treated him like a second-class citizen at the premiere. They didn't, at the time, graphic novels were newly adapted, but they didn't even want anyone to know it was adapted from a graphic novel. And he wrote it, created all these characters, and he was treated not well. And again, I understand Hollywood and comic books, even though comic books are making a lot of money for Hollywood, it's one thing to write a comic book and create characters. It's a whole other thing to make a movie that costs $300 million. So there's a lot more at stake.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. How do you feel about this whole stupid mess that shouldn't even be a thing? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, it's time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at NordVPN. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, NordVPN. All right, let's be real. There's nothing worse than wanting to stream your favorite show or watch a live game only to find out it's blocked in your country. But guess what? With NordVPN, that is never a problem. With just one click, you can switch your virtual location and access content from anywhere in the world. I have loved using NordVPN. Whether I'm traveling and using public Wi-Fi or just shopping online, NordVPN keeps my personal info safe and private. By switching my location, I can even save money on flights, hotels, and subscriptions. It's like a cheat code for getting the best deals. NordVPN is the fastest VPN in the world, so there's no buffering when I'm streaming. Plus, their threat protection feature blocks malware, trackers, and phishing attempts, keeping my devices safe 24/7. And with just one account, I can protect up to 10 devices, so my whole setup is covered. So to get the best discount on your NordVPN plan, head to nordvpn.com/John Campea, and our link will even give you 4 extra months for free on the 2-year plan. Plus, there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Links in the description. Check it out now. And thank you to our friends at NordVPN for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. Ray Ora just stepped into the room. He's over there now.
Teleported, baby.
Let's get on over to your questions now, shall we? Jonathan, what we got up first?
Michael from Sweden says, just as you, I was put off by the trailer for Better Man, but I just saw it and it's really good. One of my favorite movies of 24, and I'm not even that much into biopics. Highly recommended. If enough of us fans say it, maybe John will watch it. Doubt it.
Nah, it's too late for me to watch it. But
Yeah.
again, Better Man has been a really interesting thing that has really brought out the stupidity in a lot of people. Because, you know, we talked on the show about, we did this topic on the show once about how the creative decision to do Robbie Williams as an anthropomorphic monkey was a terrible decision because it turned the movie audience off. Nobody went to go see the movie. Guys, that's a fact. Nobody went to go see the movie. It flopped horribly. And I've always said, I've heard the movie's actually quite good. It's from the director of Greatest Showman. So I expected it to be pretty good. And from what I understand, the movie itself is actually quite good. But again, we made this video about how we've heard it's good, but nobody went to go see it because it was a terrible decision to do that with the Robbie Williams character because nobody understood, well, what the hell is this movie? If they had just done that movie as a straightforward biopic on Robbie Williams with a physical actor playing Robbie Williams, that movie would have made triple the box office, which isn't hard because it made next to nothing. But then I get all these people came in my live chat. Oh, how can you trash on this movie? Fucking moron. I'm not trashing on the movie. I've said I've not seen it, but I've heard it's very, very good. They just made a marketing mistake making this creative decision because it kept people away from it. And that's a fact. That's not an opinion. We've heard there have been so many people who've written and said, yeah, I never went to go see the movie because I didn't even understand what the hell was going on with it. So, and it's too bad because again, apparently the movie itself is pretty darn good. I keep hearing that from people who've seen it. It's really quite good. But for every one person that saw it and told me it was good, I've heard from 30 or 40 other people said, I'm not going to go see that because I don't even know what the hell's going on with it. What's with the monkey? So it was a bad decision on their part because it cost them tens of millions of dollars. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Rossi says, "G'day from down under. Just watched The Gorge and Is it just The Last of Us, but a movie, or is it just me?
I never got that impression when I was watching it. I actually enjoyed The Gorge. I know there were a bunch of people said they didn't like it. The third act's a little wonky. I get it. Like once they actually go down, it gets a little bit weird. I get that. But the movie had already won for me before they even went down into The Gorge. I think it was a really nice, I think Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy's chemistry was really good. I enjoyed the movie. One of the best movies of the year? Absolutely not. But I thought it was a pretty solid film. All right, what's next?
All right, we got Matano who says the only way that Amazon's spinning out Bond is if they did direct adaptations of original books with novels being old school serials. Any other way will be unnecessary marvelication that will cheapen the brand.
Absolutely wrong. 100% wrong. James Bond movies have always been contemporary to when they come out. Always have been. They shouldn't change that. You know, when they put out a James Bond film in the 80s, it wasn't set in the 50s. When they put out a James Bond film in the 90s, it wasn't set in the 40s. When they put out a James Bond film in the 70s, it wasn't set in the 1930s. James Bond films have always been contemporary to when they come out. To try to go back and do something as gimmicky and schlocky as, oh, let's just do a period piece of it. That's not James Bond. That's never been its tradition. And I don't think it would work at all for them to do it. They've got to make a contemporary Bond and make it great and all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, it would be a total mistake. All right, what's next?
Ernie again says, happy Saturday, y'all. Uncle John played hockey as a toddler in the driveway, got older, lost interest. The USA versus Canada game has me hooked. Bought tickets to Red Hawks for when I fly there. Bought the NHL game and currently watching the Saturday games.
I'm not quite sure what the Red Hawks are. There's the Black Hawks, and there's the Red Wings. Is that what you mean?
Maybe you meant the Red Wings.
Maybe you meant the Red Wings or the Black Hawks if he's from Chicago.
Yeah.
By the way, both original 6 NHL hockey teams.
Oh.
You ever hear in hockey the original 6? They're talking about the Detroit Red Wings.
There's a Miami University as their Red Hawks
Hockey.
hockey team.
Maybe.
Miami University has a
Yeah.
hockey team?
Yeah.
Wow, imagine that. Well, yeah, listen, it's
Well,
crazy.
they skate on oil.
It is crazy how that US-Canada thing, this Four Nations tournament they did, it got like, ESPN never talks about hockey. That's all they talked about all week, and how it's like putting every other league to shame. It's great as a hockey fan to hear. All right, what's next?
All right.
Oh, Miami of Ohio, not Miami
Oh.
of Florida. Okay.
Okay.
This makes more and more sense. Okay, Zack Snyder loves James Gunn. Says, John, I know what you're going to say, but follow me 2 seconds. In the future, 15 years from now, when Gunn does Infinite Crisis storyline, would the movie need to be a 3-parter like the recent animated one? Since it might include so many characters, Arrowverse, Elseworlds, DCU, and even Snyderverse, which might calm down some Snyder fans. Psych, it won't. But it will be the most expensive DCU movies. I don't know if Gunn might even want to touch it. It's my pipe dream, but it would look so amazing on screen. Now, I will happily hear your response as the commenters' fingers break from typing the hate comments too fast. P.S. I love Man of Steel, Dawn of the Dead, and James Gunn movies. Who would have thought in all the multiverse that would be a possibility?
Here's the problem. Everybody is sick of multiverse. Everybody's sick of it. Like, in the last couple of years, everything, everywhere was all multiverse. Do you see what I did there?
Yeah, all at once.
Everything has been multiverse. Everything's multiverse. Movies like Everything Everywhere All at Once, multiverse. The CW Arrowverse became multiverse. DC with Flash and everything became multiverse. Everything in Marvel is multiverse. Multiverse, 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 multiverse. Fucking stop it. Just stop it. And I think James Gunn is as keenly aware as anybody else that everybody's sick of multiverse. It's such a done thing. It's been so overdone by everybody that I don't think we're going to see Crisis on Infinite Earths anytime soon. I really don't. Like you mentioned, 15 years down the line. Well, there's an argument to be made that 15 years from now, maybe the audience will be ready to maybe give it another shot. But otherwise, it's just the same. Like, everybody's done this multiverse thing. There's nothing novel about it. There's nothing new about it. Now it's something that's as worn out as your old shoe. And so I don't think, but that doesn't mean DC doesn't have a great, creative, bright future ahead. And I wouldn't even mind seeing Zack Snyder being a part of it. All right, what's next?
Bad Boy of Karate says, so Will Smith appeared on XQC. He's a stream which is interesting. Celebrities are starting to do this, but he said work is still progressing on I Am Legend 2 with Michael B. Jordan, and shockingly, Hancock 2 is trying to get Zendaya. Will we see these?
Yeah, it's not surprising seeing, and you're right, we're seeing more and more of that celebrities will pop up on popular streamer stuff because that's where the zeitgeist is now, right? And you would be surprised how many people have asked if they could pop up on the John Campea Show. And we're a bunch of nobodies, which is weird. So yeah, the big popular guys. I am not interested in I Am Legend 2, to be honest with you. I liked I Am Legend, but I'm not interested in 2. You know what I am interested in though? Hancock 2. I'm interested in that. I've always wondered why they never did a sequel to that. Hancock wasn't the best movie, but it was really interesting and it was kind of ahead of its time.
Right.
Especially when you had like Charlize Theron in there. By the way, Old Guard 2 is coming out soon. Very excited about Old Guard 2. But I would sign me up for a Hancock 2. I would be totally down for it. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, decided to see if Shogun lived up to the hype. Binged watched in 3 days. It was outstanding. Up until the end, I feel betrayed. Was rooting for the guy the entire time, but it turns out he was the biggest villain and monster in the entire series.
That's one way of looking at it with Toranaga. I mean, that's been a big debate about Shogun the whole time. My position on it has always been that it's like Toranaga understands it's the only way to unify the country. Like he understands that. He has been through the wars ever since he was a child. He's seen feudal Japan just tearing itself apart all the time, especially now in the face of an emerging new world with the Europeans' influence, particularly the Portuguese and all that kind of stuff. Toranaga understood that the only way that this is going to work for Japan is if I'm Shogun. And so, yeah, but again, it's been a very big debate for a long time. By the end of it, is Toranaga actually the villain? Or is he actually the hero we never knew we needed? But it's great that the show makes you think about those things. Yeah. It's so amazing. I love it so much. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Baldur's Grape says, animated shows like YFN, Spider-Man, Invincible, Superman, race-swapping characters, e.g. Norman Lizard, Jimmy Olsen, Amber, which, if you care, grow up. Does it show the inability or lack of popularity for comics now to push new, original, diverse characters?
No, not at all. This has always been the thing. When you go back, all of Hollywood has recognized and understood that for a century, the Hollywood system was under an agenda of exclusion, right? Like every Hollywood thing has acknowledged this, that the producers and the studio heads for 100 years all operated under an absolute agenda of exclusion. Whites only, basically. There were a few exceptions here and there, but we've read the books, we've heard all the things. It was generally known. We don't put blacks in this. We don't have women in these roles. We don't have Mexicans in these. It was an extreme agenda. As Hollywood has started to try to dismantle that agenda of exclusion, if you're going to retell stories that were all done at times when there was massive, by the way, why am I freezing on his name? Anyway, if you're going to retell stories that were made during times where Hollywood purposefully made sure they had nobody else in it, it was only these kinds of characters, then I don't think that modern storytellers who are retelling older stories should be handcuffed or beholden to follow those old prejudices. Just because a bunch of people who made that back in the day were a bunch of racist fucks doesn't mean I have to follow that. No, I'm not saying they must change them, but I'm saying there's no reason not to change them, especially if it's not important to the nature of the character. So, yeah, I mean, like, even Stan Lee himself talked about how he loved seeing modern characters getting changed to be more reflective of the culture, because the only reason a lot of those characters weren't made that way originally is because the media companies wouldn't allow it.
Yeah, they wouldn't give it a pass.
They wouldn't give you a pass. They wouldn't let you make those characters. So all these characters, they got to be white. All these heroes got to be men. And all these things, that's what it's got to be. Well, if you're retelling a lot of stories today, tell me why you have to follow those old prejudices if you're retelling them today. I think give storytellers a clean slate. If they want to tell them in such a ways that they look like the way they used to, let them. If they don't want to make them the way they used to look, fine. I just don't see why. I don't think there's a valid argument to be made for carrying over those prejudices and that agenda of exclusion from ages past and why you have to bring them into today. Make an argument to me why it's important to keep those prejudices today. I don't think there's a good argument for it. So keep them the same, totally fine. Change them up, totally fine. I don't care. All right, what's next?
I Am Batman says, I know that you mentioned shrinking a lot, and I want to thank you for it. If it weren't for you mentioning it so much, I would have never checked it out. I can't wait for season 3, and yes, I finished it all in 2 weeks. Do you have any insight for season 3?
None. I have no, and I don't care. Like the great thing about, I think every once in a while, I don't think every show should be this. I don't think every movie should be this, but every once in a while, I just love seeing a movie about good people doing good things. The Lupita Nyong'o film, Queen of Katwe, is a great example of this. There's no villain. There's no whatever. It's just about good people doing good things. And I love that movie. Ted Lasso. I mean, yeah, you had the girl's ex-husband and all, sure, but really, fundamentally speaking, there's no villain of Ted Lasso. I mean, Nate kind of became a villain, but really, it's just about wonderful, broken, but truly good people trying to do good things. And Shrinking for me is one of those shows. There's no villain in the show. It's just about wonderful people who are all also broken in their own ways, trying to do good things. And every once in a while, just seeing shows like that, I think we need those types of shows. I don't think every show should be it. I don't think every movie should be it. So because of that, I don't have any requirements for Shrinking season 3. I just want to keep seeing these characters who are good, but broken and trying to put themselves back together. I love it. It's so emotionally satisfying. It's absolutely hilarious. So that's why I love that show so much. And that's why I don't really have any predictions for where they might go with season 3. All right, what's next?
All right, Jonathan, no relation, writes, wouldn't movies playing ads be more like cable where you're paying for an experience or service, but you know that you have ads? It's not really paying for a product because you don't own anything after you leave. I wouldn't compare it to buying shoes or pizza. We own that seat.
That was a part
buying.
1 of 2, I think.
It's all completed in one.
No, because here's the thing. While you do have to, we've always had to pay for a TV service, right? Not always, I guess. There was the old broadcasting over the airways days. But I mean, ever since there were cable packages and stuff like that, yes, you have to have the service as a whole. But you understood, if I want to sit down and watch, what's a show from the era? Law and Order.
Right.
You don't have to pay to watch Law and Order. Yeah, you had to pay for the cable service, a separate thing. You don't have to say, oh, you want to watch this episode of Law and Order? Please insert $5 into the machine now. It was free. Right? You can sit down and watch anything you want on cable now that you got the cable package. But in order to pay for the show, since you weren't putting in $5 to watch this episode of Law and Order, you understood that for them to pay for everything, we're going to sit through some commercials. Understandable. The John Campea Show. It's a free show. You don't have to pay. We don't put the show behind a paywall. You don't have to pay $10 to watch the show. But for us to pay the bills, we have ads. That's fine. But you know what we don't do? Like for our channel members who do like pay us every month, like our channel members, they pay us a certain amount of months. We give them a version every day. Many of you don't know this. Every day we put up, after the show is done, a version of the John Campea Show that is 100% ad free. from our sponsors, from the YouTube ads. We put up a version of the show every day that is 100% ad-free for our viewers. And because they contribute to us every month. And for people who don't, that's cool. You get the free show. We put it on. A movie going experience where you're paying 15 to 20, sometimes 20 plus dollars for a 2 to 3 hour window.
And you can't do anything else. Like you can't multitask in that situation.
You think you can charge us that much and show us a fucking half hour of ads? Unacceptable. And guess what? Hey, sheep, it ain't going to change until you stop trying to rationalize why it's okay that they do that. I am getting really, as a movie fan, I'm getting so tired of seeing some people in my fellow movie fan circle, being the sheep that the movie theaters want us to be, when we would never accept that from anything else. Whether you're buying a physical product or you're buying a service for a block of time, you have still paid for something. You've paid for it. And you've paid steeply for it. 15 to 20 bucks for a 3-hour window? And you want to spend 30 minutes of that window also showing me commercials? Fuck yourself very much, thank you. Anyway, and it's time for moviegoers to stop being sheep about it and start holding the movie theaters accountable. You don't get to, hey, you want to let me in for a free movie? Fine. Show me 30 minutes of ads. You're giving me a free movie. You want to charge me 10 bucks a month for the privilege of coming into the movie theater, but every time I come, it's for free? Go ahead, show me ads. That's fine. That's fine on television. That's fine on YouTube. That's fine everywhere else. We can do it here. But don't you fucking charge me 20 bucks and then still feel like you have the right to make me sit through 30 minutes of ads. And it's time for fucking movie fans to wake up and start holding the movie theaters accountable. It's time for us to start doing what the movie fans in India are doing, which is suing the damn movie theaters, and they're winning. They're winning, and it needs to happen here. Anyway, what's next?
Ridden says, John, don't know what you're talking about. Leader looks silly either way. Might as well embrace it, kind of like Wolverine finally wearing his yellow and blue suit in Deadpool and Wolverine. Well, at least that worked.
Nah, I disagree. I think the leader as portrayed in the comic book pages, I'm sorry, no. Leader looked effed up in Captain America Brave New World, yes. But that was far more embraceable than if they had done him the way he is in the comics. That would not have worked. I don't believe for a second that would have worked, to be honest with you. So I disagree. All right, what's next?
Forbidden also says, I believe Sonic 4 will be about time travel, judging by the post-credit scene anyway. Sonic fans forget there is time travel elements in the Sonic franchise.
Could be. And listen, I really liked Sonic 3. I had a really good time with it. It's my least favorite of the Sonic movies, but I mean, that's saying something because I still really liked it. But I said one of my big criticisms coming out was the post-credit scene because it's just the same thing every time. It's like they do the movie and then post-credit scene. Oh, now this character's coming. Yeah. And then we get to the end of the second film and the post-credit scene is, now this character's coming. Then we get to the end of the third film and oh, now this character. Like, can you do something different? I would like them to do something different. Anyway, whatever. I'll go see Sonic 4 with bells on. I really like the franchise. All right, what's next?
AV Cali says, sorry, John, Cap 4 will not be the only bump in the road. Sadly, I think F4 and Thunderbolts will suffer the same fate.
You have no basis for that.
There's no MCU without Tony Stark, Steve Rogers. MCU was Pinnacle 2008 to 19. Lightning in a bottle. Disney is just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks.
I mean, you're entitled to feel that way. But first of all, there is no MCU without Tony and Steve. Two characters that I have said myself are the heart and soul and the faces of the MCU. Granted, but that's nonsense, that statement. Guardians of the Galaxy didn't have Tony or Steve in it.
Mm-hmm.
Worked great. The first Doctor Strange movie didn't have Tony or Steve in it. Worked great.
Love the first Ant-Man.
Shang-Chi didn't have...
Shang-Chi.
It worked great. First Ant-Man worked great. I mean, a lot of the MCU always worked perfectly fine without Tony and Steve. Overall, the universe really needs to have those presences to make it feel cohesive. I agree with that, but it has no bearing on the quality of individual things. And the reason why I believe that Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four will both be much better projects is because they have really good filmmakers running them. As opposed to Captain America Brave New World, where they got the director of Cloverfield, what was the name of that? Paradox. That awful, awful movie. I mean, I still had hope for it because every director's got a bad film on their resume. The problem was Ona didn't have a lot on his resume, and it turned out. But you know what? The guys making Fantastic Four and the guys making Thunderbolts are really good. And so I think there's a lot of reason to believe, and these are films that are fully made outside of the Chapek influence, which Captain America 4 was not. So I think there's a lot of, and now, could they turn out to be terrible? Absolutely. Absolutely they could. But I believe there's a lot of reason to believe and be more optimistic for those ones than there ever was for Captain America 4. All right, what's next?
Got Marvel Multimedia Multiverse. Hi, John and crew. I started watching during the No Way Home ticket watch days, and I've been hooked. Speaking of Marvel, I think it's interesting that fans complain that the MCU isn't connected enough, but also say that there's too much homework. Choose.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, do I want a better, more connected MCU? Absolutely, I do. But this is where Rob and I disagree. I don't believe you have to have that connected tissue for an individual movie to be good or bad. Right? I think if you fundamentally just make each movie really good and enjoyable, whether or not there's connective tissue. Now, the connective tissue is great for our overall sense of the MCU as a whole. But guess what? If Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania had just been a great movie, great dialogue, a great story, great character interaction, wonderful action, all that kind of stuff, there wouldn't have been a problem. Right?
Yeah.
I think if Black Widow, and I didn't mind Black Widow, but if they had made Black Widow just a great movie in and of itself, there wouldn't have been a problem. If they had just made Secret Invasion a great show with the fundamentals of making a good show, whether or not it's in the MCU, there wouldn't have been a problem. So I think that's going to be the key thing. Just focus first on making every project you're working on great. Then make connective tissue the secondary thing. So, and I agree. The MCU the fandom is a little bit divided. Some calling for everything has to be super connected, but stop making things where it feels like I have to do homework and able to watch the next one.
Right.
You got to kind of pick a side.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll see how it all turns out. All right. What's next?
Wade's Way says, I went to see The Monkey over the weekend. I'll simply say that it was so damn stupid in the best possible way.
Yes.
The deaths were definitely over the top while also being WTF hilarious. It's for sure one and done in my opinion. P.S. I'm excited for Last Breath.
It's funny. Because I was really busy this week and I didn't see The Monkey yet, but I am excited to watch it. I had a buddy of mine. I'm not going to put on screen, but I'm going to bring up this message I got from a buddy of mine.
Wait,
Well,
Last Breath is the one with Simu Liu, right? And Woody
I'll have to
Harrelson.
look it up.
The undersea one?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, yeah,
I do
yeah,
want to see that one too.
Yeah. Woody Harrelson, Simu Liu, yeah.
So my buddy sent me this text because he just watched The Monkey. He loved it. And then like a half hour later, he sends me another text with WTF that it had like a C cinema score. Like really bad for a cinema score. Like a really, really bad cinema score. He goes, I don't get it. Why did and like I've heard from a lot of people that had a lot of fun with it, but then I've heard from a lot of people that really hated it. So I don't know. I'm still very curious to watch it, so I'm gonna get out to see it this week. All right, what's next?
Okay. Anonymous says, I don't see how the Academy could like Amelia Perez more than Dune 2. Do you think any Academy voters chose it over Dune 2 because it was a hot choice over Denis Villeneuve? Not saying they didn't like Amelia, but what was the deciding factor?
They just liked it more. And they're human beings, so I'm sure timing of it, like again, the Oscars have shown for 60 plus years, that a little bit out of sight, out of mind. Remember, Dune was originally supposed to come out in late 2022, right? No, late 2023.
Right.
It was supposed to come out right in Oscar season for the 2024 Oscars.
Yeah.
They held it back.
But because of the writer's strike and the actor's strike, so the writers and the actors couldn't go out and promote the film, they delayed it into the new year, and therefore they didn't want to delay it a full year, so they put it out in early 2024, and it's kind of just disappeared from everybody's minds. I mean, it happens. It's a human thing. Now remember, the Academy is also like 8,000 members now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, Ray, do a quick check over how
Yeah.
many voting members are there in the Academy, but I think it's somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 members now. Well, if you're talking about literally thousands of members, could there be a couple of the voting members who voted one way or the other because of this or that? Sure, absolutely.
It's 9,900.
Wow.
It's up to, they're getting up to 10,000 members now. Wow. I knew they crossed 8. I didn't know they crossed 9,000.
99.
Anyway, so of course you're going to be able to pick some people out, but that's why it's important that they have 9,000+ members, because the vast majority will override the idiosyncrasies of a couple of individual voters. For the most part, they saw it more recently. They really liked it. They voted for it. I wouldn't have, but that's why film is subjective. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, how many Oscars do you think Wicked will get? Personally, I love it as a non-musical fan. As John the Flick Pick said, it unlocked a love of musicals in me. I didn't know that was there. Even recognized a song from it somehow. Loved it.
I think it will win a couple of the technical ones. I don't think it's going to win any of the majors. So it's not going to win Best Actress. It's not going to win Best Supporting Actress. It's not going to win Best Picture. I don't think it's going to win Best Screenplay. But it's also up for a number of the technical ones, like set design, visual effects, hair and makeup, costume design. We've had the costume designer on our channel, on our Designing Hollywood show.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think it has a chance to win a couple.
Best song?
I don't think it qualifies.
Oh, you're right. Yep.
Doesn't qualify.
Yep.
So I do think it's going to win a couple, but I think it's going to be some of the smaller awards earlier in the evening. I don't think it's going to win any of the major ones. And I say that as somebody who I was very impressed with. I liked Wicked way more than I thought I would. I don't think it's on the same level musical wise as, say, Greatest Showman. Because, guys, if you have not seen Greatest Showman, watch Greatest Showman. But yeah, I don't even think you have to be a musical fan to love Wicked. I had a really great time with that movie. All right, what's next?
Alex, in a two-parter, says, I wonder why New Line hasn't produced a live-action Middle-earth movie, such as the conflict between the Kingdom of Armor and the Witch King of Angmar, one of the stories from the Lord of the Rings appendices, which they have the rights to gauge whether anthology stories can bring the masses and create a cinematic universe. Maybe The Hunt for Gollum and the movie after are starting it.
Because they don't think there's an audience for it. Listen, I'll be honest with you. Like, one of the reasons that, like, a lot of people have asked for years, why haven't they done the Silmarillion? And it's like, because that's a really difficult thing to film, man. And it would appeal to a lot of the hardcores. But the brilliance of what Peter Jackson did was he took Lord of the Rings, and listen, a lot of Tolkien purists despised Lord of the Rings when it first came out, like Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
A lot of people forget that now, but a lot of purists hated that movie when it came out. Because, where's Tom Bombadil? And you didn't have this, and you didn't have this, and all that kind of stuff. But what Peter Jackson did was he brilliantly took that huge story and adapted it into a very consumable package by the audience that still had all the richness of the characters and all that kind of stuff, and made it magic. There's a lot of Tolkien writings that I think hardcore Tolkien fans don't understand. I don't think it would go over well with the general audience. And these films can be so expensive that you don't just take one on as a project, as a test. You know what I mean? And honestly, I just think a lot of that stuff would never be embraced by the audience. Anyway, I could be wrong about that totally, but that's just my thought. All right, what's next?
Alex says, have you guys seen the Black Bag trailer? It stars Kate Blanchett, Michael Fassbender as a couple where he's an intelligence agent and has to investigate her, another agent, for possible treason to their country. Soderbergh directs. It looks great.
Yeah, we've talked about it a couple of times. I was like instantly, like when they showed us that, I was like instantly, I'm in. I'm totally in. The cast alone is enough to get me. Boy, Michael Fassbender needs a big win. I don't know if there's a better actor in the business who got just buried under crappy projects that almost killed his career. He needs to be in something premium. I think this looks great. I can't wait to see it. All right, what's next?
Okay, Lauren of Seattle says, in a one of two, hi John and crew, I hope Rob is present. Sadly, no. For this one, as I want to get his opinion, I feel that...
Just so you guys know, Rob and Chris, because we pay for people's time, Rob and Chris don't stick around for the questions part of the show. They do the main topics and then they depart, just so you know. But anyway, please continue.
Yeah, I feel that one of the overlooked aspects of Black Panther is the story narrative is akin to Shakespeare and Greek tragedy. Do you agree or disagree? And then also, speaking of storytelling, I've always felt that the first Doctor Strange was the MCU's version of Herman Hesse's Siddhartha, not an Iron Man copycat.
I think there's a lot of stories, and even in a lot of, maybe you wouldn't even think of them, sort of comic book movies that clearly have some Shakespearean influences, right? I think you can say that about a lot of movies and a lot of stories. I've never looked at Black Panther as kind of a direct rendition of a Shakespearean story. Influences, absolutely, but I also think that can be true of a lot of the different stories there. All right, what's next?
All right, we got Spencer West. For V-Day, Valentine's Day, I'm assuming, weekend, the New Beverly played and I wanted to go to this, I didn't though, the New Beverly played a Peter Bogdanovich double feature of What's Up, Doc and Noises Off. While both are great, I was completely taken aback by how skillfully directed Noises Off is. Art may be subjective, but there are objective skills and that go into the job of directing. The blocking of actors, camera movement, compositions, shot lengths, pace, all these things are executed with meticulous precision by PDB. PDB. I feel like I need to see it again just to catch all.
Those are not objective skills. Because what is well blocked for you may not have been well blocked for somebody else. Sorry, it's just true. These are artistic skills. And then understanding how creative choices in one thing will or won't mess with a creative choice in another area, and then a different creative choice in this, and how this all blends together for a thing. That's not an objective science. If it was, anybody could do it. If it was an objective thing, all you need is a I'm trying to see if I got
scientifically, these people block like this is the perfect way to do it.
All you would need is all you need is to open up the textbook. Okay, to have a brilliant blocking, just do this. Every movie, if it was objective, every movie would look exactly alike, because all every filmmaker would have to do is just look at the instruction sheet. Good blocking is when you do this. Okay, do that. Great, but it's not. It's subjective. It's artistic.
The objective is knowing how to operate a camera.
Yeah.
Knowing
Objective,
how to operate light.
is it
but
in
then
focus?
Artistically using that,
In focus is a measurable thing. You can measure if something's in focus. Right? Like, but everything else is an artistic thing. That's what makes him so brilliant. By the way, Noises Off, tied for my all-time favorite comedy movie. My 1 and 1A are 40-Year-Old Virgin and Noises Off. Too many of you guys have still not watched Noises Off. Michael Caine, John Ritter, Christopher Reeve, Carol Burnett. It's brilliant with a capital B. You must watch Noises Off. It's so good. All right, what's next?
Spencer continues about Noises Off. The jokes, the gags go from being wall to wall to by the second. It's a hilarious movie, which is the most important thing, but it should not be understated how expertly executed Bogdanovich directing is. Maybe one of the best directed films ever. Wow. Real fan of the movie.
I mean, whenever you take... Because, by the way, Noises Off is also a stage show.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, when you see the movie, totally makes sense. It's so brilliantly put together. You got to see it. Absolutely got to see it. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Baby Boy. What's more likely, a movie released in the month of January getting an Oscar or the Dallas Cowboys winning a Super Bowl? Just kidding. I know neither will happen.
Oh, no, you can definitely get one in January.
Yeah.
That's it. By the way, I just want to point this out. Somebody in the live chat just said, having a shot out of focus can be an artistic decision.
Yeah.
Yes, but it is out of focus.
Right.
It's objective to say if it's in focus or not. It's not objective saying whether or not this scene should be in focus or shouldn't be in
Sure,
focus.
there are scenes shot out of
But
focus
whether
on
it's
purpose.
in focus is completely scientifically measurable. There are parameters you can use to say, is that shot in focus? Doesn't mean you can choose to have it in focus. Maybe your artistic vision is to have this a little bit out of focus, but it doesn't change that whether something is in focus or not is objective.
Right.
Whether it's good to be a little bit in focus here or out of focus a little bit, that's subjective. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Okay. Amin says, seems like Timmy has been listening to your show. I think he means Chalamet. Name dropping Daniel Day-Lewis, saying he wants to be one of the greats. Loved his speech. Love his mindset and his drive for working hard and striving for the best. He's right when he said people don't usually say what's on their mind. Crazy that there are people actually hating on his speech, calling him arrogant. That's because they're just haters.
That's because they're morons.
Yeah, man has put in the work and literally made history as the youngest ever Best Actor SAG winner. He will be one of the greats. He didn't even say he was great. He said he wants to be.
That's the thing. Like Jonathan and I were talking about this beforehand.
People.
And like, listen, when an athlete says, I continue to work really hard because I want to be one of the greats, we all applaud that. We say, yes, that's what you should be aspiring to. That's what you should be working towards. That's what your goal should be. Timothee Chalamet very clearly said, I'm not one of the greats right now,
Yeah.
but I do the work because I want to be one of the greats.
Matter of fact, he even said I'm in a room full of the greats.
Yeah. If that's not your goal, what are you doing? What are you doing if that's not your goal? If you don't, like, you clearly don't take your craft seriously, if you're not aspiring to join the greats, to be one of the greats. It's arrogant to come out and say, I am the greatest.
Yeah.
That's arrogant. To come out and say, guys like Daniel Day-Lewis, when I put in the work, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about becoming one of those guys. When an athlete does it, we all praise it. When an actor does it, we should all praise it. It's absolutely the perfect thing to say. And anybody who's hating on it is just a jackass and is just hating on it to hate on it. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Danny B. Karaoke says, hello, John and crew. Have you seen the trailer for G20? It's coming to Amazon Prime in April and stars Viola Davis. It was one of the people Chalamet mentioned, too. It looks fun. Also, thanks to you and Rob for turning me onto the show Paradise.
I love Paradise. You know, it's funny. Somebody asked me yesterday on Open Mic whether or not I've seen the trailer for G20, and I have not.
Yeah, nor have I.
Yeah, me either.
I actually, right up until somebody brought it up on Open Mic yesterday, I'd never even heard of it. So, no, not familiar with it yet, but I will check it out. I will check out this trailer. I just haven't had a chance to see it yet myself. And I'm glad you're watching Paradise, man, because that show's really not the best thing on TV, but it's really good. Another big win for Hulu. All right, what's next?
Brandon Salad says, hey, crew, finished your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man this weekend. And wow, what a surprise. They should burn that first trailer because it's in no way encapsulates what the show is about. Love the characters. Excellent story. Highly recommend.
I've still only watched the first 2 episodes.
So I'm okay. I'm in like 5 or 6 episodes in, and maybe it changes. Here's one of my problems with it. I like a lot of it. I don't like that we're still sticking to, well, Spider-Man's a kid, so he needs a guy in the chair telling him how to defeat someone live while he's fighting them. Like, he has an earpiece, and he needs Norman Osborn to tell him what to look out for, and this will enable him to beat. Dude, Peter Parker, even as a teenager, he was a genius. He figured out how to beat Doc Ock and all these other people on his own. And it's sort of like, well, it's a Norman Osborn suit, just like it was an Iron Man suit. It's just like, can we move away from this and just give him, like, let him figure out how to beat these guys? He's a genius.
Yeah, I didn't love the first. I liked them though. Like, let's put it this way. I did not think this show was going to be any good at all. So when I watched the first 2 episodes, I went, that's not bad. I was really, that's a big thing. Like, I was impressed. I think, you know what, this is actually not bad. This is pretty good. But I didn't love it, and I still haven't gotten around to watching the rest, but at some point I'm going to have to, because a lot of people seem to be really enjoying it. All right, what's next?
Harv's Case says, saw a double feature of The Monkey and Hard Eyes over the weekend, and I have to say that Hard Eyes is the better horror comedy of the two. I think a lot of critics feel that way too. The Monkey is just not funny and lacks tension, where Hard Eyes does a good job at being both a rom-com and a slasher. But it was The Monkey supposed to be a horror comedy or just horror?
I mean, the trailer certainly gives it vibes that it's meant to be like a horror comedy.
Okay.
instead of rather than it's just straight
Because
up
Hard
horror.
Eyes, I definitely saw the horror comedy.
Yeah. Again, I haven't seen Monkey yet, but I do want to. And it's really funny seeing the dichotomy between hearing from some people, I loved it, to, wow, this thing was a waste.
Yeah.
So, and I think the comparison is fair because that's another movie that just, with Hard Eyes, that's just been out recently,
Yeah.
kind of aiming for that general zone on the board. So we'll see. Again, I still got to see the Monkey, but I'm hoping I mean, I certainly like the trailer. So we'll see how that one turns out. All right, what's next?
Twilight Boy.
Twilight boy.
The reason I said Doom Messiah releasing before the Batman 2 is ridiculous is because in the time between Batman 1 and 2, Denis will have shot and released 2 Doom films. I'm all for taking your time to get things right, but man, this is just unreal.
I don't think that's true. I don't think
I have to see the timeline.
I don't think he started shooting Dune 1 after the first Batman came out.
That's 2022.
So I see what you're saying, but I just don't think factually that's true. I don't think Denis shot and released 2 Dune films between Batman 1 and 2. Because I think Dune 1 was already shot by the time
it was.
the first Batman came out.
It was.
So, yeah. Anyway, but I get your point. I get your point of what you're saying, though. All right, what's next?
Okay, let's see. Sorry, scrolled here. Jake Galbo with a $20 tip.
Thank you, Jake.
Good Canadian kid. Do you have somewhere that we can help out with your last CinemaCon trip? I've been watching you since the AMC days and would love to help out as a gift for all the awesome memories you gave me. You're our anchor. Well, I mean, tips help.
Well, I mean, you just tipped in to support the channel. That is a way of helping. Yeah, we are very excited for CinemaCon this year. I think there's going to be a lot of great stuff at it. Again, CinemaCon surpassed Comic-Con for me as my favorite event of the year. It is by far my favorite event of the year is CinemaCon. I always have such a great time at it, meet a lot of great people at it. Some of our viewers are often there in Vegas and come out and meet us. So, and you know what? I think we've said this for like the last 4 CinemaCons, but I think this year we might actually designate an evening somewhere where we might do a meet and greet. Like, hey, if you guys want to meet the John Campea Show crew, we're going to be, this is just making this up right now. Just, don't think, meet us Thursday night at 9:00 at the Heart Bar at Planet Hollywood.
On Death Hill.
Like, on Death
At
Peak.
midnight.
That maybe like Thursday night at 9 p.m. We're going to be at the Heart Bar in Planet Hollywood. If you want to come by and say hi, take a picture, that's where we'll be. So we might do something like that this year. We'll see for all those of you guys who live in the Vegas area. All right, what's next?
Thomas Bombadil says, "Hi team, John, are you watching Mythic Quest season 4? I love the murder mystery episode. I think Ian and Poppy might be my favorite platonic relationship in a comedy show. I gotta say, Apple TV has my full attention these days. Dope Thief also looks good."
I didn't realize it came back yet.
I saw that it came. Yeah.
So Ann and I have watched the first 2 episodes of the new season, but that's as far as we are right now because it was like, wait a minute, Mythic Quest came back? And because I've been waiting a long time for Mythic Quest to come back. So I haven't got to the murder mystery episode yet. We're just 2 episodes in. And yes, I love their dynamic. His dynamic with Poppy is so good. I love it. And I really enjoy the show. Again, I don't think it's anywhere to the same level as Shrinking or Ted Lasso or something, but it's a really enjoyable show. I've liked all of it so far.
I finally just started it.
Oh, I really get a kick out of it.
Beeper Yell says, Daredevil Born Again 9 days. The Wheel of Time is 17. The Last of Us is 49 days. Star Wars and Andor 57 days away. Thunderbolt 67. Mission Impossible 86. Superman 137 and Fantastic Four 151. My countdown app is on overtime this year.
Yeah, bring that list up again because
yeah.
we realized there are going to be 3 shows that will be on, not all starting at the same time, but on concurrently. It was Last of Us and Andor, and there's one other.
And one other, right?
What was the third one? We realized that Last of Us, Andor, and there's going to be a 3rd show that are all actually going to be running. Some people are saying Daredevil. Is Daredevil still going to be on?
So, because
it's 9 weeks.
it
should
maybe
be.
So, yeah.
It should be.
So maybe that was it. Daredevil was ending around the time of Last of Us and then
So
Andor.
think about this. We are literally going to be where we're going to have a week where this week we have a new episode of Daredevil, new episode of Andor, and a new episode of Last of Us. What a great stretch Cannot wait. This is gonna be so good.
Unless they suck.
Unless they suck, in which case it'll be horrible.
No, that'll actually make it a greater show. I'm just kidding.
I think Ray's gonna be doing a lot of barbecuing. A lot of barbecuing
Oh,
for
boy.
these TV nights.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, what's next?
Curious Chris says, hi all. While watching the Red Hulk fight in Cap 4, I had a question. How much do these superheroes pay for physical therapy sessions? The beating Sam was taken was way more than the regular human should be able to just walk off. He must pay a premium. He has a special government deal.
Special, yeah. I mean, he's in the military, right? He's still
Yeah.
considered part of the military. All the health benefits, but yeah, man. Like, again, this crosses in the spoiler detail, but when he's fighting Sidewinder, he literally gets. Was he shot or stabbed? I can't remember.
He shot, I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
because he
he-
shoots him. Yeah, shot.
Literally gets shot.
He's just like, ow.
Yep, walks it off. Keeps going on with the fight. It's like, no. You get shot like that, you are crumpled on the ground. Your
I
body
will-
can't function.
That was like the very first scene, right? Like the intro scene.
No. It was later. It was halfway through the
okay,
film
okay.
when Sidewinder tracks him down.
I can't remember if he had like body armor or if he was bleeding.
Oh,
I
he's
can't remember.
bleeding.
Oh, boy.
He was bleeding.
They didn't mention that again in the rest of the movie.
He just walked it off. He literally just walked it off. Well, he stabbed or shot or whatever, and he just walked it off. It was all fine. No, it's all good. It's all good.
It's all good.
Yeah.
right, what's
Ronetta
next?
Says, hi everyone, just saw Andor trailer, loved it, except one thing, the music.
Yep.
What the heck? Why? All I know, they better kill it with the score, like they did with season 1. That score was not for me. I think in the full trailer, you're gonna get a score. I think
100%.
I think this was
100%. When they actually release the full trailer, because this was a 1:30 teaser, we'll get actual score. And I'm on 100% agreement with you. The trailer was awesome, but that music nearly ruined it.
Oh,
Not because it's not a good song, but it was not the right song for
Be
that.
sure I'm going to be editing. I'm going to be making edits of this.
I need two. I need Streets Have No Name, and I need Ice Cube saying "fuck the police" when
Okay.
stormtroopers are on the screen.
Yep.
That's I absolutely need to have that.
All right, I'll time it up.
All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, I honestly think if Dune 3 is good, it can go down as one of the best film trilogies ever.
100%.
I know Denis is just doing the 3 movies, but do you think they'll continue the story or call it a trilogy and make additional content outside of the trilogy?
It all depends on the success of the third one. Like, obviously, the first one did pretty well. The second one did way more than the first one. If the third one does way more than the second one, Denis may be done, but you bet Warner Brothers will be looking to keep that gravy train rolling. So they'll probably try to do more. Again, I still have my doubts about the third one because the source material isn't that great. I have problems with Dune Messiah. I think every book in the Dune franchise progressively gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So hopefully Denis will adapt a lot of it, make his own changes to it, and we'll see how it turns out. All right, what's next?
Zarian, the Barbarian, says in mid-2024, Variety reported that Todd McFarlane, posted on social media that his draft for Spawn was complete. He said the next step is to find a director for the film, not himself. Who would you like to see direct, and what are the odds we get Spawn before Blade? It's going to be Blade first.
I don't think this movie's ever happening.
It's going to be Blade first.
They first announced it. I don't think I'm out of school by saying I think they first announced this movie in 2018.
Probably.
Wasn't it Jamie Foxx attached or
Yep,
something like
Jamie
that?
Foxx and Hawkeye.
Renner?
Jeremy Renner. I think Hawkeye. I think Jeremy Renner and Jamie Foxx were both attached, and it goes like all the way back. I think to 2018. It might have been earlier than that. And pay attention, Stephen X. Says Stephen X in the live chat.
Oh,
It's like you're a little bit late, Stephen. Yeah, and originally I said no one is going to finance this movie because Todd McFarlane insisted that he was going to direct it himself.
yeah.
Who doesn't know fuck all about filmmaking or making anything. He's never done anything. So I said nobody's going to finance this movie.
Didn't stop Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, it's true. The next Spawn will be right up there with The Room.
Oh, hey, Spawn.
I did not kill Spawn. I did not.
Spawn.
Then his comes out and says, oh, okay, now we're going to look for a director. Okay, so finally he gave up on that pipe dream that he was going to direct this movie. Okay. I still don't think this is ever going to happen. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not definitively saying it won't. I'm just saying as a fan, I was saying since 2018, I don't think this is ever going to happen. And here we are like 6-7 years later. It still hasn't happened. I still don't think it will. I really don't. But if it does, great. And hopefully it'll be great. But I just don't think anybody's going to actually put up the money for it. All right. What's next?
You're tearing me apart, Spawn.
You're tearing me apart.
Carlos says, hi, crew. Heard a rumor
I love rumors.
that Tom Holland is shooting Doomsday scenes before Spider-Man 4 production. Also heard Spider-Man 4 was pushed back a few weeks to not conflict with Nolan film he's also going to be in. Also good to see Rob back in the show. It did get pushed a week.
That's believe me, shooting schedules doesn't push the release schedule by a week.
1 week.
Yeah. So that's neither here nor there. I also heard what I had heard, and I cannot verify is true, just to be clear, was that they're going to get in a lot of Tom Holland shooting early because a lot apparently of Tom Holland in Doomsday is going to be a la Pedro Pascal in Mandalorian, where you're going to hear his voice behind the mask, but they're going to have another actor in the mask because he's only available for so many days. So they're going to shoot the stuff that his mask is off as early as they can, and then everything else will just be a stand-in, and then he'll just record the dialogue later on, much like whenever you see Mandalorian, 99% of the time, it's not actually Pedro Pascal in the armor. He just does the voiceover later. So from what I understand, that's what they're going to do there. All right, what's next?
We got Seconds from Disaster. I had a proud nerd dad moment yesterday. My kids love Spidey and his amazing friends on Disney Plus, and they have a bunch of characters on it, including Herbie and the Thing. While I was watching the Fantastic Four trailer, my 5-year-old daughter smiles and says, "That's Ben and Herbie."
Who were when we were kids and they had Spidey and his amazing friends?
Yeah.
Who were the other two? Was it Iceman and Firestar? It was Firestar. Okay, yeah, it was Iceman and Firestar, who I don't think Firestar was ever in anything else, right?
I don't think so. But the Spidey and Friends he's actually talking about, I watched a couple of episodes. I like it. I mean, it's wild, though. It's so all over the place. It's jumpy. It's like the attention span of like this. They have all the characters, though. What I love.
How old is this? Like this year, last year?
I mean, it's been for a little bit. I mean, it's a Disney Plus, like Disney Kids show.
Okay, I was not familiar with
it. It's a Disney Kids show.
2021 is when it aired, I think, when it first aired.
But it's wild how many characters they have on that show. You thought like the 1980s animated series had cameos. This one has every character you could think of.
There's that original, Spider-Man and
Yeah.
his amazing friends.
Yep.
All right, what's next?
Generic Man. There was a really emotional scene in one of the final episodes of Cobra Kai between Johnny and Kreese. I was thinking this is Emmy worthy and got to thinking, are Emmys for performance based or singular scenes like cumulative throughout? It's the season.
It's the season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Writing or like directing is for individual scene or individual episodes. I have a hard time believing anything in Cobra Kai is Emmy worthy. I'm not a Cobra Kai fan. I'm the only one in my household who is not a Cobra Kai. I still don't understand why anybody likes it, but you do. It's all subjective. It's fine. Everybody else loves it. But
how come you gotta say it like that?
what? I'm telling the truth.
I know. It's kidding. I'm kidding.
But, I mean, there are things that I watch that I don't like, but then I go, I can see why people really like that, though.
Right.
I don't get it with Cobra Kai. I don't get it. But my wife, your sister, loves it. A lot of people I know love it, and that's great. It's just one of those things. I go, you ever watch Parks and Rec? Remember how what was Leslie Knope's husband's name again? Played by Adam Scott.
I thought it was Ben's
Ben, right?
Ben something,
right? So in Parks and Rec, everybody in Pawnee loves Little Sebastian, the pony. For those of you who watch Parks and Rec, right?
All right.
The whole town, even Ron, cried at Little Sebastian's funeral. Everybody loved the little horse, Little Sebastian. And then so here comes Ben, who's kind of new to Pawnee, and he's just like, I don't get it. It's a little horse that doesn't even do anything. That's how I am with Cobra Kai. I am Ben to Parks and Rec's Cobra Kai. I don't understand how anybody likes this show, but people love it, and I give it its props for that. It's hugely popular.
Sorry.
But
Sorry,
yeah. Anyway, to answer your question, For performance Emmys, it's for an entire season, unless you are specifically nominated for Best Guest Appearance. Then that can be for one episode. All right, what's next?
We got
Gone.
sorry. We got Randomish.
Radamish?
Randomish. There we go. I
Radamish.
don't know why my brain was not seeing that. Randomish says, Brave New World would be like the Marvels, hiding true cost. Watch for future reports. Full accounted for will be over 180. That's damage control from poor box office expected. People went to the opening before the reviews were in. Marvel brand, Hulk brand, Cap brand, and the Marvels. Prior stories from trades, Vanity Fair said it cost 130. Forbes updated it to 270. Reshoots.
By the way, just side note, I never believe any. I used to love Forbes. I don't believe anything from Forbes. They don't fact check. As far as I'm concerned, from what I could tell, and in my own subjective pure opinion, they don't fact. They just write whatever. I don't encourage anybody to read Forbes anymore personally. So I never take what comes out of Forbes at face value, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, they've just been, in my estimation, they've been psychotically unreliable and inaccurate in a lot of stuff. And anyway, I won't go off on my whole thing about Forbes, but you won't see us quoting Forbes on this show anymore. Anyway, please continue.
Reshoots, post-production, other expenses separately accounted. What might Brave New World adjust 182? They want damage control, I'm sure.
Okay, first of all, there's this myth that the studio does damage control, but guys, listen to me. 99% of the movie-going audience has no idea what a movie's budget is, and they don't care. You're acting as if the general public will have this major thing if they knew what the general public has no idea. Go ask anybody on the street. How much did Captain America Brave New World cost? I don't know, $50? $5 billion? I don't know. Nobody knows. Did 99% of the movie-going audience doesn't know and doesn't care? Why do you think Marvel would care, or any studio would care about damage? It does no damage. You know why? Because 99% of the movie-going audience never knows about this stuff and doesn't care about it at all. At all. So they don't give two shits about whether they come out and say the budget was 300 million or the budget was 150. They don't give two shits. They have to report it though, because Disney is a publicly traded company. So they have to report what a movie's P&L sheet is. They have to. So, but as far as damage control, what damage to who? Well, you know, if the movie actually costs $400 million, we don't want John Campea knowing. They don't give a shit because nobody cares. You do damage control on things that could actually do damage. They could find out that Captain America Brave New World, a movie I don't like, cost $700 billion. So that won't do damage to anything, to anybody. It does damage to their bank account, but who are they trying to do damage control for? You think they give two shits if John Campea thinks, wow, that was particularly bad? 99% of the movie-going audience doesn't know, doesn't care, never heard of what the budget is, and it makes no difference to them whatsoever. So why you would think a big corporation would feel the need to do damage control when the information itself does actually no damage? Yeah. I don't see what the rationale behind that is.
Also, post-production is not accounted for separately.
Yes, no, post-production is 100% a part of the budget of the movie. Marketing is not.
That's separate.
Marketing is not. And excessive reshoots may be additional.
Sure.
But here's the thing. We've known for years that when Marvel goes in to make a movie, they schedule and budget for reshoots in advance. This has been true for years. But now, I'm sure in the case of something like Daredevil, they had to do much more extensive reshoots than they had originally scheduled and budgeted for. And maybe even in the case of Captain America Brave New World, they may have done reshoots that exceeded their original scheduling and budgeting for. Sure. And does the actual number come out to be higher than 180? Maybe. But this whole idea that they're doing damage control, again, I just have to ask. You know what it reminds me of? You ever see Snatch?
Snatch, yeah.
When I can't remember what Jason Statham's friend's name is.
Oh yeah, I can't remember.
I'm going to say Billy for argument's sake. What you got there, Billy? It's a gun. Why are you carrying a gun? For protection.
From the gym.
Protection from who? The Germans. Like, that's damage control from what? From who? But whatever. It is what it is. The movie costs whatever it cost. The average movie going audience doesn't care. And even if it comes out that Captain America Brave New World costs $7 billion to make, it's not going to change one person's opinion positively or negatively about going to see the Thunderbolts. There's no damage to be controlled.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. All right, what's next? The Germans.
I got to make an audio. I got to make a sound thing for that.
Protection from who? The Germans. I
The
love
tick
that line.
says, 22 years ago, my sister kidnapped my teddy bear, giving him a makeover after she raided
Oh
our
no!
makeup. I responded by tearing off tearing off the heads off her Bratz dolls. Bratz, I remember those. I bring this up because I feel like I've been outdone in a petty, vindictive way. Response by like,
I don't know why this reminds me of that. But it reminds me a little bit about Thing on Sisters. So I was a bad big brother in the sense of the fact, because like I was born and then 4 or 5 years later, my parents had 3 kids, one right after the other. So Heather, Sandy, and Rob were all born they were all 1 year apart from each other, right? So like they went to grade school together, went to high school together, and then there's me. That was like 4 or 5 years old. And I didn't know how to be a big brother, right? I didn't really know. I still don't really know. But I know I was very protective. That's the Italian part of me. I was very, very protective. And it's like, I got like, my sisters would get frustrated because they're like, you know, like some guys won't talk to us because you threaten them and like all this kind of stuff. And like, I remember this one time talking about like reacting and whatever with siblings. I came home one day and my sisters were home and my parents were not. And my sisters, which they were allowed to from my mom and dad, it was actually pretty innocent. There were just guys over. I came in the house. There wasn't anything going on. There were just guys there. And of course I popped my lid. I physically grabbed them and like a cartoon show, threw them out the door out of my house. And then, you know, another time I was at home, ordered some food, door knocks, there's this guy. I'm like, hey, yeah, I ordered some Swiss chalet. For those of you who are Canadian, you know Swiss chalet and the glorious goodness that is Swiss chalet. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, do you got the food? He goes, no, I'm here looking for Sandy. And I look at this guy and the very next words out of my mouth were, how old are you? And he's like a couple years older. He said, if I ever see you again, I'm going to kill you. Which is not the right thing to say. It is absolutely not the right thing to say. But it got to the point where one day I came home and my sisters and my mom just passed away. Were sitting in the living room having an intervention with me. They had to have a talk with me about how I was treating my sister's friends. Because I was blowing it. I was not doing a good job.
You mean her former friends?
Her former friends. I think secretly my dad was like, keep it up. Like my dad was like, good job, son. But my mom had to sit there with my sisters and say, John, you're behaving in such a way that you can't do this anymore. You got to leave Heather and Sandy's friends alone. Anyway, that's just, I don't know why that your story just reminded me of that, but it did.
Friends? You mean the devils?
The devils? The evil people that are coming to take advantage of my sisters?
Okay.
they're not even Leafs fans.
Yeah, they're not even Leafs fans, Mom. Come on. I didn't hurt him that much.
Yeah.
What's next?
Dan the fan. Hey, John and crew, just finished your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man this weekend, and it was so good. Can't wait to see more. Have you guys seen it? What did you think? Well, we've talked about it already.
Yeah, we already talked about it. Again, I've only seen the first 2 episodes. Liked what I saw, but didn't like it enough to keep watching it. I will finish it off at some point, though. All right, what's next?
Dan V in a 2-parter. I don't respect Liefeld. He tweeted in 2019, DC Comics going to drive off a cliff here real soon. Got to get my popcorn. I ain't never seen a company in as much disarray as DC Comics. Thank God they have Batman to act as their Tylenol, aspirin, laughing gas. More Batman will fix it. He said again DC would shut down in 2024. He celebrated when DC was doing poorly and wanted DC to fail. He went at another artist claiming that he ripped off when he ripped off other artists' designs, he was very arrogant.
Again, all I can say is that I have had the pleasure of meeting Rob on a couple of occasions. Again, we've had him on shows that we've done. And my experience with him was always super positive, like super nice, charming guy. I honestly, I can't say enough about how much I enjoyed when Rob Liefeld came into studio, and he was great. But he needs to shut his mouth. He needs to shut his mouth and get one of his nephews or something to become his social media manager, where every tweet and every post needs to go through the kid first. Say, Uncle Rob, you may not want to say that. I'm not going to post that. Like, he really does need a filter. At this point now, he's just old man Liefeld screaming at the clouds. And I hate saying that because my experience with him was always so good and so positive. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Reggie Phoenix says thoughts on today's DC studio news. I'm guessing he means maybe we'll probably talk about it later.
Well, there was a press conference like 3 days ago. Anyway, go ahead and finish off reading.
Yeah, well, it was just that.
Oh, that was it? Okay.
But just that maybe he's talking about this, give status updates
Yeah.
on Batman
So
projects.
basically, this was a press conference that actually happened
Okay.
like 3 days ago. Like they just released the results of it now. It was a small, like little press conference that they had some invited media to come to. There was really nothing in it. Everything was just stuff that we already knew. And other things were like, yeah, we're working on that and we'll see. And maybe we'll do that. And there wasn't really anything really definitive in it. So it's pretty much, it was a big nothing burger for the most part. He's just kind of updating everybody on where things were at. Like, no real big update on when we might see Batman Brave and the Bold. No real update on the Batman 2, just saying that we still haven't gotten a finished script. No real big update on anything. It was just, they took some questions, gave some answers. Wasn't anything really big or definitive on it.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
All right, we got some member questions here.
You know what? We unfortunately don't have time.
Okay.
We are already 20 minutes over time.
Oh yeah,
sorry.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, we've gone 20 minutes over time, guys. So sorry. We'll make sure 100% that we get to some of our member questions tomorrow, guys. But for now, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making this little show a part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in the questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported our channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. Don't forget to come on back and join us again tomorrow. Where all of us will be back. Ray will be back.
Yes,
Jonathan,
guys.
Chris, Rob, all of us will be here. Hopefully you guys will be back to join us as well. I want to thank Ray Ora,
See you guys tomorrow.
Jonathan Voico.
See you guys.
Big thanks to Chris and Rob who aren't here right now. And big thanks to you guys. My name's John Campea. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.